got auctions to go to.
Does your wife know you're buying more decoys?
Sometimes I have to sneak them by. She was informing me that most of the
The
clutter
thing we had was there were good
in the
people
house
who
is now
were working.
my side rather than hers. Although her clutter is just
They did their job.
less clutter. Mine's good clutter.
Kids, good kids.
Is that you?
No,
I don't have my phone,
that's, coach.
Go away.
When I became, first assistant principal, of course, and then the school, we had a good superintendent.
Do you need me to go print you one?
Do you want me to read it, or do you want me to say anything about it? Because I got to tell you, I'm not going to be able to remember that.
Somewhere it shows you.
I can sort of paraphrase.
Oh, yeah.
I do have it.
Better run and get a copy of it then.
Awful. Yeah. She probably thought I was awful too, so.
So, folks, bear with us for just a minute. We have an administrative issue that we have to take care of here before we can open the meeting. But we'll be with you in just a minute. Oh, you know what? I bet I could have just read that, can't I?
Yeah. Yes.
Should I wait for her to come back now?
What did those stakes represent?
Stakes represent. He goes, what do those stakes on the property represent?
I'm telling you. I'm seeing an awful lot of not the usual people today.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Do you have any idea where this 1044 Route 28 is? The number doesn't mean anything to me. It's not on my,
You know, I just realized we could probably just read the thing that's right here.
for front page.
But thank you.
Number 3 goes to 1.
Pretty quick.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know where that is.
Do you?
You know the church?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ed Hoops, Chairman of the Yarmouth Conservation Commission. We'll now convene the April 6th, 2023 meeting of the Yarmouth Conservation Commission. As required by General Laws, Chapter 38, Sections 18 through 25, and pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, the public are able to attend this meeting either in person or via the alternative public access. Members of the public may watch the meeting live on Channel 18, or watch and/or participate in the meeting hosted in Zoom. The meeting notice provides necessary instructions to join the meeting via Zoom. Please note that audio, video, and screen sharing functions will be disabled for all attendees. You may request to participate by using the raise hand function. I will start by taking a roll call for quorum. Ed Hoops is present. Tom Durkin.
Yep.
Patricia Mulhern is absent. Ellie Lawrence is absent. Rick Bishop.
Present.
Paul Huggins. And David Bernstein is absent. So we do have a quorum present, and I'll call the meeting to order. Before we get into our agenda, for those people who are presenting the notices or requests, just to let you know that we have a quorum, that the quorum is 4. But in order for anything to pass, we need a full and unanimous vote. So if you want to think about it and take a continuance, that's understandable. I think we're all ready to go with everything. If you have any issues, feel free to bring them up then when your hearing is called. With that said, I am going to take things out of order just slightly here. And the first one will be a continued notice of intent for SE 83-2382, Christopher M. Lucas Environmental LLC for Diane Morris and Julie French, 1044 Route 28, proposed construction of a telecommunications facility and gravel driveway within land subject to coastal storm flowage. Let the record reflect that I was not here for the first hearing when this was opened, but I have viewed all of the hearing and have, under the Mullins Act, brought myself up to date with all of this. And so I can go ahead and issue, unless you have an issue that you want to have the original quorum.
I don't think that's a problem.
You'd state your name for the record, and then
Great, thank you. My name is Chris Lucas with Lucas Environmental. I'm a professional and certified wetland scientist and soil scientist. I appreciate you taking me early so I can get to another hearing tonight. We're here tonight on behalf of Blue Sky Towers for a proposed telecommunication facility located at 1044 Route 28. Also with me virtually is Jesse Moreno, the project engineer for Proterra Design Group, who prepared the plan set. Mass DEP has issued a file number SE 083-2382 for the project. The property is located on a 4.4 acre parcel. It's probably can't see it here, but this is the outline in blue. It is owned by the Roman Catholic Bishop of Fall River Parish. It consists of the existing churches located here. They have the drive aisles and parking located here. They have frontage along Route 28 to the east, Long Pond Road to the west, and Forest Road to the north. There are residences and commercial properties located to the south. We also have the USGS here showing the parcel location. Swan Pond's located to the west, and Bass River is located at least 2,000 feet to the southeast. There's no rare species habitat located on the site. There are no certified or potential vernal pools. There's no outstanding resource waters, no areas of critical environmental concern, no Mass DEP wellhead protection areas. We have completed a wetland investigation of the site. We did not find any wetland resource areas. The only thing located on the site, which we're here before you for, is land subject to coastal storm flowage. That's based on the 2014 mapping elevation 11 NAVD 88. This sheet here, just to orient you again, Route 28 is down at the bottom here to the east. These are the drive aisles. The church is located here. This blue line here is the 100-year floodplain elevation. This is the proposed elevation. This dashed line here is the existing 11 contour. So everything down to the east, grading this way, is within the floodplain. The line in green is the 500-year floodplain, which is non-jurisdictional, but we're just showing it for purposes. So this would be the 500-year flood elevation through it. The proposed, there's an existing tree line located here along the edge of the parking lot. There's an existing parking lot down here, and then Route 28. Our proposed facility is located in this portion here. We have a lease area, which is this larger box. This is the lease area with the church. It's 10,000 square feet in size. The compound itself is about 3,300 square feet, and that's located right here. This is the compound, which will be fenced in with a 6-foot-tall stockade fence. We're proposing a 119.6-foot-tall clock tower. That's going to be located right here. It's this triangle is the proposed clock tower itself, just under 120 feet. Associated equipment is going to be located here and here. There are 2 propane tanks for the generators located here and here. The total disturbance, the earth disturbance, including the facility and the drainage, which I'll get into briefly, is 10,550 square feet. This is pretty small footprint. It's a total of about 5.5% of the whole parcel. We're here proposing this to support wireless broadband telecommunication in the town of Yarmouth and accommodate the necessary antennas, electronic equipment, and cabling with the facility. It'll be accessed off the existing driveway. There's a proposed 12-foot gravel access from the existing driveway into the facility. We are proposing erosion controls. They're not shown in this plan, but we have an erosion control sheet, which I have here. The erosion controls are going to be located here along the down gradient portion of the site, down along the stormwater, and up through here. We also have a concrete washout station here, and if needed, a dewatering station will be located here. For the stormwater, we are proposing several different features. There's a vegetated swale proposed along this edge of the compound, which will direct stormwater to a pretreatment sediment forebay here, and then into a larger infiltration basin here. The infiltration basin has been sized to treat the water quality volume using the 1 inch. There's a broad crested weir located at the down gradient point of the basin to prevent any erosive flows during heavier storms. There's also a 12-inch pea gravel diaphragm located along the edge here and also here. The project complies with the Massachusetts Stormwater Management Standards. DEP did raise a comment about that. We've provided the revised stormwater report. The incorrect one was submitted, so that's all been updated. We also submitted a signed illicit discharge statement for the record. As far as the regulatory compliance, we're here solely for this little portion of work in the floodplain, which primarily consists of the stormwater features in the gravel access way and a small portion of the compound. The Wetland Protection Act doesn't have performance standards for this resource. Your local bylaw regulations do, however, they're specific to areas within 300 feet of a major estuary, which we are not. So based on that, we're fully compliant with both your bylaw and the state regulations. And we'd be seeking, approval for an order of conditions tonight. In my professional opinion, there's going to be no adverse impacts to the floodplain here. We're solely in land subject to coastal storm flowage. We have erosion controls proposed and a good stormwater system to treat anything. So with that, I'll leave it to the board if you have any questions for Jesse or I tonight.
Okay, thank you. Questions from the board?
Chris, you referred to it as a clock tower. Where's the clock?
I believe there'll be a clock face. Jesse could answer that. But Jesse, do you want to chime in on the clock face?
You can move it along, Chris.
Okay, all right.
Anybody else?
Well, that was an excellent presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
No, thank you, I have no questions.
Brittany?
Questions? Thanks.
Anybody in the audience have questions, comments on this project? Anybody on Zoom? I see none. Unless there's any further discussion among the board, would somebody like to make a motion to approve the project with special conditions?
So moved, Tom.
Is there a second?
Second, Paul.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously.
Great.
All right.
Well, I appreciate your time this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
All right, before I go back onto the regular schedule, there is another, one other thing that we're doing out of order. Just if anybody is here for 277 Buck Island Road, for Gary and Elaine Roy, that one, the consultant is running a little late, so we're just going to push that off to the end of the meeting. So if you're here for that, we're not skipping it. We're going to put it at the very back. With that said, we go over to our request for determination of applicability. The first one being Robert C. Garahan, 184 South Sea Avenue, Unit 13. This is proposed vista pruning in the buffer zone to a salt marsh and land subject to coastal storm flowage. How are you
Good
doing?
evening.
It's like you just state your name for the record and then briefly describe what you'd like to do.
Sure. My name is Robert C. Garahan. The property is at 184 Southsea Ave. It is Unit 13 in the Southsea Village. What we'd like to do is just do some minor vista pruning. There's an amazing view of our wetlands there, and we'd like to be able to admire that a little bit more. So nothing crazy, just really trimming down in accordance with the town's vista pruning policy that's on the website. I know that you guys were able to come out and see it already, so appreciate that, and just really looking for that approval to trim it to the proper level in accordance with the town rules, and then maintain it for the duration of the permit at that level.
Questions from the board? Paul?
Just one comment. I appreciate the fact we went out there a few weeks back, and the fact that you were trying to be very careful about making sure you did this right and in the proper way. And sometimes that's not our experience with some other projects, so thank you for that.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, just very new to this, trying to do it right and learning as we go here. So appreciate the patience of the commission.
Thank you. And if you have any questions, then you can always call. We'd rather you ask questions and do it right than to make a mistake and then come before us for a violation, so.
Absolutely, and I will say, Brittany and her team have been awesome to work with navigating this process, so appreciate that.
She's pretty good. I think we'll keep her. So.
You should.
Brittany, anything?
No, we discussed on site. I think you're pretty understanding, so no questions.
Thank you very much.
Anybody in the audience? Anybody on Zoom? All right, would somebody like to make a motion then for a negative 3?
So moved, Paul?
Second, Tom?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously. All right, so negative is a good thing for you. That means that you don't have to do any further filing with conservation. Just stay within the guidelines for the vista pruning, and let Brittany know before you do it, and then when you're done. Do you want to take a look at it too afterwards, or?
Yeah.
You're good?
Okay.
Okay.
You're all set? Okay. And do I need any, just administratively here, do I need any sort of?
Yep, so we'll mail out your permit,
Okay.
and then you're good to go.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
It'll just be a couple days before she can get the determination set, but sometime middle of next week.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. All right, next order of business is another request for determination of applicability. Mark Burgess, Shorefront Consulting for Sharon Nestor, 49 Shore Road. Proposed repairs to existing seawall and a removal and replacement of stairs and land subject to coastal storm flowage in the buffer zone to a coastal bank. Art.
Thank you, Ed. Yes, for the record, Mark Burgess of Shorefront Consulting, here with this request for determination for some repairs to a very old retaining wall, storm wall. I believe the applicant, Shireen Nestor, is probably zoomed in, if there's any other questions that might be answered for the property. But as the application suggests, these are just to the actual seawall itself. It's really limited to any repairs of cracks, and then cosmetic, what I would call a parge coat, if you guys are familiar with that, but it's a thin skim coat of a concrete. And, I mean, they might put tile on the top or something like that, but nothing structural or anything like that. It's all cosmetic. But a parge coat is a skim coat of an adhesive, kind of like a mortar. It's not concrete, but kind of like a mortar. So it smooths cracks and makes it look all nice and even. I had to do my foundation when I built my house, so. But you can see areas where there's some cracks out there, and I'm not sure how much of the outside that she wants to fix. It's the cracks that are on the top of the wall that she really wants to pay attention to. I mean, structurally, as when I look at the wall, yeah, it's old, but it hasn't budged. It's not moving, it's not shifting, so there's no real heavy-duty work proposed on the wall itself. And then the stairs, the steps that go out, are kind of a combination of old slippery concrete steps and whatever remaining rocks are out in the water. That's proven to be unsafe, so they want to take out the concrete, leave the rocks that are there, but take out the unnatural concrete, and then put a proper staircase. And that staircase could be, we're leaning toward aluminum, but they might pursue a timber, and whether it's removable or not would be at their option. But the idea is to replace it with the steps as shown there, over the existing rock. So none of the revetment that's in front has to be touched. You don't need huge equipment or anything like that, just to break up the concrete and take it out. I guess with that, I'll address questions you might have.
All right, thank you, Mark. Questions from the board?
Yeah, Mark, how do you plan to anchor the base of the staircase?
I believe I showed 2 posts there, right?
Wasn't sure if the concrete posts are pressure treated.
Oh, did I say?
I missed it.
If I said 4x4, then I probably assumed they were going to be a PT post. 6x6. Good, beefed it up. I would assume a timber post.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else?
Nope.
Brittany,
No questions.
anybody in the audience? Anybody on Zoom? If not, would somebody like to make a motion for a negative, it's 2 and 3, right?
Yes.
For a negative 2 and 3?
So moved, Tom?
Is there a second?
Second?
Thank you, Paul. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously.
Okay. I'll be back in a little while.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Right, moving on to the other continued notices. This one is for SE 83-2378. Bob Falzarano, Fraser Construction Company Incorporated for Jeffrey Gabriel's 18 Rhodes End, proposed removal and replacement of 21 by 10-foot deck with a 21 by 12-foot deck in the buffer zone to a bordering vegetated wetland and freshwater pond. Again, I was out for this, for the original hearing, but I did watch. If you have any issues with me serving, you can go ahead and say that. If you want to wait for the original
We can't
quorum.
make a determination tonight is how this works, is what you said at the beginning of the meeting, is that correct?
No, no.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So Ed wasn't here for the first, when it was continued, but he's caught up. So there's he's Mullins ruled himself, so,
Just fine,
okay.
that works for me. Thank
Just,
you so much. No,
it's your right to say, no, I want the original members, and, okay, all right, so we're good to go. Go ahead, state your name for the record, and
My name is Bob Falzarano. We work with Fraser Construction out of Mashpee, and we've applied for a permit to remove and replace the 21 by 10-foot deck with a 21 by 12-foot deck. We are planning not to have any digging at all. We're going to reuse the footings that are existing, which I believe on your second visit, gentlemen, thank you so much for that. It's all staked out now. It was visible. And we would keep the materials to build in the driveway and work on the driveway, and the dumpster would go in the front of the house at a little turnout at the end of the driveway. Like I said, we're not planning on doing any digging at all. We're just gonna reuse the existing footings. And again, we're not gonna use any machinery. If there was any digging at all, I would assume it would be somewhere in there. Whatever dirt we would have would be brought to the dumpster in a wheelbarrow. I know that this is only my second time doing this. Would you go and mark the work limit line? Because that's where we would put a siltration fence if you would want that.
Yes, and you have it staked in the field, the work limit line.
Say that again.
You had it staked in the field, the work limit.
Well, that, again, thank you so much. And I guess for me, that's pretty much it. I know I'm not very squared away at this, but I don't believe there will be any disruption of plantings, given the fact there'll be no digging. We're going to be in compliance with CMR, 310 CMR and Toy Wetland Bylaw, Chapter 143. The deck itself right now is becoming unsafe. It should be replaced. So it's something else to consider for everyone. I figure the project will probably take the best part of 2 weeks, and that's it. Remove and replace.
okay, and so it's coming out 2 feet, right? You're adding 2?
Is. The post will stay the same. It's going to cantilever. I have my structural plan if you'd like me to hand it out to you guys.
You just make a copy available so we can put it in the file, but you don't have to print it out right now.
It was
but that's-
accepted by Tim already, but
Yeah,
this
this was
is
just
our
for our
last
file,
hurdle.
yeah. Mhm.
Exactly correct. Just want to make sure everybody's on the same page, so.
All right, and are we good on mitigation?
No mitigation has been proposed.
Why? Why no mitigation?
Mitigation of,
So you're adding 2 feet by
21.
21, that's
Yeah.
42 square feet. We typically require that mitigation be proposed, so some sort of planting at a 4-to-1 ratio for situations where you're inside the 50-foot buffer.
Okay,
I mean, so you're looking at, what, 42 square feet times 4 is 172? Did I do that right? 172 square feet?
got me, I'm a carpenter, I don't need math.
Did I get it?
168.
One, how much, huh?
168.
168, I'm sorry, I was 4 feet off. It's like,
Works for me.
okay, so I think that's the one thing I would require to see. I mean, we have to do that. We ask for mitigation for all projects like this, where you have a disturbed buffer like that. So that would be that's my only comment with it. I don't have a problem with the work. It's just, there has to be mitigation for it.
I agree.
Okay? Anybody else on the board?
Yeah,
That's great.
Paul?
yeah, so this is, the 2 feet's gonna be cantilevered over the existing.
Correct.
thing, okay.
Nothing on the ground is changing, just the deck is cantilever over a beam, proposed beam.
So is the mitigation required by just the increasing the size of the deck? It's not really that there's gonna be more disturbance to the,
It's still considered footprint, yeah. Yeah, it's still considered footprint. And I think that's, I mean, we do that pretty consistently all the way through.
yeah, I just had because it was gonna kinda hang over, I just wondered if it was required, but obviously it is.
Brittany, do you have a larger view so that we could see where the mitigation perhaps would be most appropriate?
I can go through some pictures, but I'm not sure. Along the edge of the water would be the best.
All right, there seems to be sufficient property there to put it 168 feet of
Okay.
mitigation small plants.
Okay. And that's a square footage number of vegetation?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
We always recommend plantings that are consistent with Cape Cod plantings.
Correct.
No
The
invasive
blueberries,
species,
the
right.
native species, right, that kind of stuff, okay.
Okay, so I don't have any other issues with it, other than I just will need to have a revised plan that shows
Revised
that.
plan of plantings.
Yeah, I mean, I'm good with approving with, pending, I better not
You
do
would
that.
walk through at the end?
Yeah, no,
We'll
I'd
wait to see
actually,
the revised.
Hmm?
Wait to see the plan, or,
unless you're comfortable, if you're comfortable approving it, that's fine, but
I think it's best if we wait.
that's what I thought, but, okay, so if you can just, can you get the mitigation planting plan, or added to the plan
Sure.
in 2 weeks?
Sure.
So, well, it's actually a week, because we'll need to see it a week ahead of time, so.
Okay.
That's, you're good, or do you need more time?
I don't, actually, I'll just figure out where we're going, and the plan is there, I'll have, Mr.
Okay, so we'll
Sweetser add some.
see you, what's it, the 6th, we'll see you on the 20th?
Yes.
That's all, these always happen on Thursday?
Yeah, yeah, so it'll be April 20th, same time, and if you could get a copy of the revised plan showing the mitigation planting area and the planting palette, so what kind of plants you're planting.
Sure.
And you can just get that to Brittany by Thursday, the
13th.
13th, thank you.
Okay,
Okay?
all right.
All right, great, thank you. We'll see you then.
you.
Do I have a motion to continue for a revised plan showing the native planting mitigation area?
So moved.
13th, thank you. Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried unanimous. Okay, so we'll see you.
Thank you all.
See you in 2 weeks. Thank you.
Thanks.
Your hat, sir.
Your hat.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Next order of business is another continued notice of intent for SE 83-2385, Christopher Gilbert Farland Corp. Incorporated for Lisa George, 41 Shortway. It's a proposed addition with partial basement, attached deck, fence, driveway expansion, and walkway within the buffer zone to a bordering vegetated wetland. Right, and you're good with me listening and with the four members that are here?
Yes.
Okay, all right,
Mr. Chair,
thank you.
should I get that tripod so he can put his display up?
Oh, yeah, so can we bring up the,
He's getting it.
yeah, just you pull, that would be great, thank you.
Thank you. You can take that panel off there. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Christopher Gilbert from Farland Corp Engineering. I'm representing the applicant in their property at 41 Short Way. This is a 16,000 square foot lot. There's an existing single-family dwelling, a small driveway, and a septic system on the lot. To the rear of the lot is a small vegetated wetland, which I have highlighted in green on this plan. And then highlighted in yellow, I have the 35, 50, and 100-foot buffers to that wetland. The owner is proposing a 26 by 27-foot addition off the right side of the existing dwelling. About 17 feet of that addition will be a full basement. The rest will be a slab foundation. And then off the rear of that will be a 10-foot wide deck. We're proposing staked straw wattle erosion control around that work. We're keeping that outside the 50-foot buffer and outside the existing tree line. The only work being proposed closer to the wetlands is an extension of the existing stockade fence along the rear property line and the right property line. We are proposing to leave a gap at the bottom of the fence to allow small animals to pass through. Also proposed on this plan is a paved expansion to the existing driveway, paved walkway, and a covered landing on the existing house. All of that is outside the 100-foot buffer. And we're not proposing any grading. And I've also noted on the plan that we'll try to keep any stockpile areas outside the 100-foot buffer and surround those with erosion control. I believe that's it. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, great, thank you. Yeah, everything seems to be outside the 50. Questions from the board?
Set.
Paul?
Nope, nothing.
Okay, Brittany?
Just a quick question. Do we typically allow fences within the 35-foot buffer?
It's at the 50, right?
The fence
The
goes within the 35, up to 9 feet close to the
9 feet.
wetland. All of the work for the house remains outside the 50, which is great. Just the fence they're proposing to go
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that one.
closer to 9 feet, as close as 9 feet to the wetland.
And what's there now?
Open woodland.
Is there a reason, why are you putting the fence in?
They're looking to enclose the backyard with a fence.
So it's going through that.
Yeah, there's, the lawn ends much prior to that.
Well, I mean, I don't like that necessarily.
No.
I mean, we don't typically ask for mitigation for fences, so, you know, 'cause I don't know how we'd even do that, but, and what kind of a fence is that that's being proposed?
It's so existing, there's a wood stockade fence. It would be similar to that.
Okay, so you're still looking for the same kind?
Mhm.
I mean, again, if it was if it were a split rail fence, I guess I probably wouldn't have an issue with it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it would really be cutting off the wildlife habitat around the wetland.
See it happening.
So that, I mean, that would be my
Okay.
big concern with that, is like, because I'm, thanks for bringing that up, Brittany, because I didn't even notice that, but, you want to ask the
Yes.
homeowners what they want to,
They
how they
said
want
they'd,
to move with that?
they said they'd be okay with a picket fence. I don't know if that's any better. They're not, they're not giant gaps in picket fences.
Getting closer.
But anything further than that, I'd have to discuss with them.
I,
Would the location of the fence say it was not?
wanted to bring the fence back out to where it's
Right.
right by where the lawn is,
Mhm.
then I guess as long as you maintain passage for the, underneath for wildlife, then I think I could probably live with it if you kept it along the edge of the grass or the lawn, but if you're gonna be if you really wanna set on going through the timber like that, the only kind of fence I think I could approve would be a split or a split rail.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so you wanna go back and ask,
Yeah.
go for request for 2 weeks and come
So I'll
back
see
after you
if
discuss
they
it?
want to go with the split rail or move it.
Yeah, that's the only thing I have an issue with, but,
Okay.
okay?
Do we have a picture of where the grass, you're talking about the grass line?
On the
Do you
plan?
have- Yeah, where,
What's on, yeah, it is on the plan.
That light bubble line is the edge of the tree line, edge of lawn.
and the proposed fence is that curved kind of line there, right? Or where
This,
is
no,
it?
this is the work limit
Square,
line.
that's-
This is the proposed fence.
Oh, okay, I get you now. All right.
Okay,
Okay.
everybody good?
Thank you.
All right, would somebody like to make a motion to continue this to April 13th?
So moved.
Second, Tom.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously. I guess we'll see you on the 13th.
Thanks.
Okay, again, we are skipping the item number 6 on the continuances, 277 Buck Island Road. We're putting that off to the end of the meeting. Next order of business then is another continued hearing, a notice of intent for SE 83-2371, Bob Perry, Down Cape Engineering for Susan and DeWitt Davenport, 62A Pleasant Street. Proposed swimming pool in the riverfront area in a riparian zone, land subject to coastal storm flowage, and the buffer zones to a salt marsh and coastal bank. It's like a hockey game going on back there. It's like there's just people moving all around.
A lot of action. That's good.
That's right.
We like action. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Bob Perry, Cape Cod Engineering, and it's been some time since we first opened this public hearing at 62A Pleasant Street. The Davenports took some time to consider alternatives. They took some time with me to look at where some of the mitigation would be preferable for them, still having it kind of in the zone that does some good. So in response to the public hearing that we had in early January, we revised the plan to show the 2-to-1 mitigation for the pool area. We added, I thought a reasonable way to approach this was to put in plant lists. They're fairly small areas, is approximately 760 square feet, and to basically put in a clear specification for how that, what is now lawn area, would be transferred into a mitigation planted area with planting guidelines, fairly straightforward. And our discussion about trees resulted in 2 trees that are located on that west side. And we listed several deciduous and evergreen varieties that would be native. There may be others, and if necessary, we can let you know when they make that final decision. But that is the extent. In our letter, to you, one of the other items that came up was what amount of the riverfront area at the site was developed and degraded, if we call it that. Well, it's an old site. Actually have questions. You may guide me on some of my questions, one in particular. But in our letter, we quantified those various areas. Going to the far side of the house where we hadn't done any detailed surveying for this, we measured everything up. So we gave you that value without going back and repeating a field survey effort. The question comes to the Rivers Act performance standards and whether we're counting in our 10% or 5,000 square feet, whichever is greater, development activities that occurred before the enaction of the Riverfront Act. And I don't think we need to go too deep on it, but it is a technical question that I have. I mean, we have a 360 square foot pool. We have collateral activity that's going to be cured. We have the mitigation at 2-to-1, which frankly, I almost believe is more of a Yarmouth requirement because we're working on the water side and in general. It seemed that you wanted to see that mitigation and the applicant's willing to provide it. So with our cover letter, we touched on that question, but we gave you the degraded area in this riverfront area, so you have it as a record. Other than that, I think I should just open it up to any remaining questions that you have.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Questions from the board?
Yeah, I just have, I'm looking at the plan, and so I understand. I see mitigation area A and area B. Are you utilizing both or one of those areas?
Both.
Both, okay.
They're different. One is in shade, the other's going to be in pretty bright sun.
Okay, all right. And so, no, I guess no planting plan or anything has been decided upon for mitigation area A, right?
Well, it's been detailed. If
It
you
has,
can
okay.
use that
Oh, I see it now,
paragraph
I'm
to
sorry.
look at, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I gotta look at the whole thing here. Okay.
So it's,
mostly grasses. And then on the left, I think there's already some shrubbery there, probably not the kind you like. I think it's a privet. But there's more opportunity for different varieties there, and we've
Yeah,
enumerated
I see
those.
that now, okay. All right, thank you for that information.
Anybody else?
yeah, I would just like to see the chosen plant species before they're implemented for approval, once you decide.
They'll contact a good firm to have that done, and just, you want to put that in the order, or I'll keep it in mind? You can put it in the order.
Yeah, I'd just like to approve the species before they go in.
Very good.
That's all.
It's just the pool, right?
Well, the pool and now the planting, right?
But
The
beside
tree
the plant,
removal.
but the pool's the only other thing that's going in. You'll need to get a building permit for that, right?
That's correct.
Okay. So my only consideration, I assume you're going to be accessing for the excavation for the pool and everything from the west side of the house, coming around that way?
Yes, where those trees are going to be planted, there's room to come through there. The septic system is just between the building and that outbuilding, the accessory building. So it's quite small pool. It's 8 feet, some coping. It's a lap pool, and relatively small equipment will be coming in here. Skid steer, probably, and a small excavator.
All right, so I know we don't usually do this, but I know it also comes back to bite us. I'm not saying for your client specifically, but in general, it comes back to bite us from time to time. I would almost consider putting an order, a condition under the order that has them establish the mitigation planting area before they begin the rest of the work, because it's all going to be outside the work limit anyhow. And that way we guarantee that it gets done. Anybody
So are you saying,
sole person with that? I can live with you saying no too, but
Well, it could be started. I don't know that it would take, and I can't tell you the exact schedule for construction. I mean, we are going into the growing season,
yeah.
and a concurrent effort is possible. That's your call. I think you have a very reliable and resourceful and good client. I do anyway, and your applicant is ultimately going to be looking for a certificate of compliance. They're looking around to get the pool done, and
Are they looking to get that done sooner?
that I can't say. We could find someone going to pool construction, say, in the winter or early, sometime off-season when you wouldn't be planting, and they may not be ready to pull the trigger now, which means they would be reluctant to do the mitigation until they absolutely knew they were going to do this
Okay.
pool.
All right,
I just think it's
I think,
low
Bob,
risk.
you raised a point. I mean, the Davenports have always been very good about doing this. And so I'm willing to go on faith as well, so.
Appreciate that.
I'll strike that. All right, anybody else? Brittany, anything else?
No, that's all. Thank you.
Anybody in the audience? Anybody on Zoom? Any further discussion among the board? Would somebody like to make a motion to approve the project with special conditions pending, you need a planting palette that shows the actual plants that are being added to the mitigation planting area?
so moved?
For a second?
Tom?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Carries unanimously.
Thanks.
All right, so moving on to the new notices of intent for SE 83-2389, Paul Mancuso BSC Group for Colleen Bueller, 12 Fairwood Circle, or Fairwind Circle, proposed public access stairway and after-the-fact filing for changes to a dock system within land subject to coastal storm flowage, riverfront area, land under ocean, land containing shellfish, and the buffer zone to the salt marsh and coastal bank. Kieran.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, my name is Kieran Healy. I'm a land surveyor with the BSC Group, representing the owner of the property, Colleen Bueller, here today. As you mentioned, one of the portions of this project is to re-permit the pier that is out there. It was originally permitted under license 2934 and has been there quite a while. When the pier was constructed, two things happened. One is that they made the pier 6 feet longer at the edge of the float, but they reconfigured the float so that now it's a single float as opposed to two floats. So the area of the float is actually 15 square feet less than what was permitted. It's 120 feet as opposed to the 135 that was permitted. But it does go 6 feet further out into Bass River in its current location. We have been to Waterways, and we do have approval from Waterways on this. And then the gravel walkway is the walkway that's, for those of you who've been out to the site, you'll recognize it's extremely steep. And that's the gravel walkway that's there on the site right now. And with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions that you have.
Questions from the board?
One moment.
I'm sorry, one other thing, Mr. Chairman. We are proposing 2 access stairs on either side at the beginning of the pier for fishermen and fowlers to be able to go up and over without the deck interfering in their access.
Thank you.
Haven't we been using 80 feet as our maximum for piers in the Bass River as a standard?
We have, that's what we've always gone with 80. This one,
So it's 84
it's 84,
plus,
right?
plus 16 plus, this is really getting out there.
Yeah, we usually just, it's 80 feet for the stationary portion of the
Right,
pier,
so we're
right?
at 84.2 there, plus 16.1, plus 20 foot in the dock. I mean, this is 84.
As I mentioned, we have been to waterways, and that length was discussed at waterways, and one of the reasons that they voted in favor of this was the fact that this was kind of in a cove, and it doesn't have the Bass River access going up and down like you have in other parts of the river. And it's the only place where you see where we've got some deep water.
Are they unanimous?
I don't think so.
The letter?
Mr. Chairman, I'm just very concerned that this would be a precedent we would set for other dock applications coming forward. I think that's really getting out there. That's 100 feet plus.
If I could, Mr. Bishop, this particular pier has been there in this location for many years. It has not interfered with any traffic of water of anybody using. I do realize that it's longer than what your normal allowance is, but it's kind of hidden in the cove, so it doesn't have that same significance as other ones that would have out into the river itself. You can see it right there on the screen, actually. Just beyond the end of the pier, you'll see the portion of land on the far side. Well, the river is to the right and outside of that. So the river itself, the channel, is a good 250 feet away from this pier.
Mr. Healy, I know the area very well. I'm just concerned that, future applications, how do we say no to them? Just my opinion.
So it has a 91 permit, right?
It does have a 91 permit, yes.
Okay, and when was this?
I don't know
exist? Do you know?
I don't know
when?
the exact date of the permit, but with a license number of 2934, that's a pretty old permit.
Okay, and you said that this was existing since?
This is an existing structure, yes. What you saw on this,
Do you have an idea when that went in?
for at least 25, 30 years. I don't know the exact date on that, I'm afraid.
But it's existing. The fixed portion of the pier has been the part that's been existing.
That is correct.
Okay. I think that's the only thing that is, if this were something new, and they were asking for something like that, I would be right there. I'd have an issue with it.
So my second point, though, haven't we always used 3 feet as our minimum depth for a float? I believe it says
We do,
2.1.
but we've also, I mean, I know we have allowed, we have, it would be it's certainly a variance, that's for sure. And so the question is, how many variances does the board want to grant?
We are at 2.5 for mean high water, and mean low water of less, it says 1.2?
So the height remaining when it's low water is 2.1 feet.
2.1, so they just made a mistake in there.
No, that's, the elevation of the water is different from the depth.
All right, 2.1, I see that.
Gotcha.
As I did mention, the float system itself is smaller than what the license allowed.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like it, but given the circumstances of this particular site, I don't know if I'm ready to pull the plug on them either, but I don't like it. But I think they, I'm not gonna use the word grandfather, but I think they certainly have certain things that have been I don't wanna say overlooked, but they weren't overlooked, but.
And if I could, Mr. Chairman, the one other thing is, even though this is longer than what the town allows, the completed project is only 6 feet longer than what was the original permit that was approved both by the town and DEP. So yes, it is longer, but it's not, tens and 20s of foot allowed more than what was permitted back when it was originally permitted. It's 6 foot difference, so that's what we need to be talking about. is the 6 foot as opposed to the current regulations. And again, as I mentioned, it's an unusual spot in that this is a cove. If you were to pull it back, you would have less depth. And we're well outside of any traffic on the river itself.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
you talk about the circumstances here. Can you just elaborate on that a little bit? Is it because it's been in existence for a long time and you're?
Well, the fixed portion of the pier has existed, and it's in the current position and under the current length for more than our most recent dock, our older dock regulations. The floats are under what was granted originally. The water depth is something that I really don't feel like I should be doing doing this service for the applicant, but
If I could
the
just
water
follow
depth is something that we would not allow. If this were a new pier, we would not allow this. Okay, we would say you have to bring it back to the 80 feet. You have to what is it, 20, it's 120 square foot of float.
Sounds like the dilemma in a way is it's been here for a long time, and evidently it sits in a unique type of a setting, and so would those things negate any precedent that, for example, Mr. Bishop is worried about?
Yeah, I don't think it's precedent setting, Rick. I mean, and that it's only because if this were the fixed portion that we were looking at 100 feet, then again I would be saying nah. That's
Yeah, but the fixed portion is 80 feet, right?
84. The applicant's looking for us to not respect our limitation for length, as well as there's a depth issue there that in the past, we've always been very rigid on.
If I could just add two, I'm sorry to interrupt, Mr. Bishop, if I could just add two items. One is, the 84 feet is the overall length of the pier. The overall length of the pier from mean high water is less than 80 feet. And I believe the regulation says from 80 feet from mean high water.
from mean high water.
If you look at the plan, you can see the dark line on the top left, just to the right of the proposed new stairs. That's the mean high water line. So there's a good 8 feet there from the 84. So that black line just to the right of these stairs, that's the actual mean high water line. So this is less than 80 feet in length. And at the time this was permitted, it was permitted when you did not need 3 feet of depth. This is an old permit. So we don't follow the current regulations. I fully understand that. But at the time this was permitted, and fully permitted by both the town and the state, we did not need 3 feet of depth.
I mean, I just don't.
Right, but they're asking to extend it, and we still don't get to the 3 feet.
We're just asking to leave it as it is.
No, the floating dock is further out there,
That's the float that's been there for 25 years.
but not in that location.
It has been in that location. When it was built, it was always built in this location. 6 feet different from what the permit allowed.
Do we have a COC for this?
What do you mean?
Was there a COC issued for the
Previous one?
for the dock?
I would have to look. It's probably not worth me clicking through all of these. Yes. There was.
So it's
No,
complete.
this one's for the dock, though.
Were there any ongoing conditions that were added to it? No.
And this is the
Yeah,
structure that was installed.
I don't see this as, I get what you're saying, Rick, and I don't, if this were a new dock or violation that way, I'm with you, but frankly, I don't think we could win on an appeal if this were appealed. That's what it comes down to.
Okay.
But again, everybody votes the way they feel they should vote, so.
Right.
Brittany, have you, any comments, concerns?
Yes, the homeowner was there, and I would just require that the debris, the leaves and salt marsh hay that are on the dock be disposed off-site, not onto the marsh.
Okay, I'll let her know that. Mr. Chairman, if I could, just before you go to vote, Mr. Bishop's, one of his original concerns was the 84 feet. It's very important to us to recognize that it's not more than 80 feet. It's 76 feet. So we don't trigger that issue as a violation. The mean high water is 8 feet from the outside. I could just, if you wouldn't mind putting up that plan, just so I could be sure that everybody
Yes.
understands that issue.
Is this where you want?
So this right here is the 84 feet from this point to this point. This is the mean high water line. That distance is 8 feet. So as a result, the overall length is 76 feet. So we're not in violation of the 80-foot requirement. The second item is the depth of the water. At the time this was permitted, we didn't need 3 feet. That's the current regulation. The certificate of compliance was issued for this structure in this location. So we're just looking to get the license squared away with DEP, and the first step is to come through here again. So this is what was certified by the town in the order of conditions.
And you said waterways was the one.
Yes.
I guess my only other question is that they're asking for a 6-foot wide deck versus a 4.2. Where are we on that with the regulations?
What are you asking?
I'm asking if the 6-foot wide deck is consistent with our regulations. I don't recall that one.
What are we looking at here?
Look at the right end.
Oh,
Go to the right, see it's 6 feet wide.
You're talking about for the float.
No, for the actual hard deck, it shows that it's 6 feet wide. If it's right near the, Brittany's, her little hand on the screen is right there.
Oh, I see where you're talking, okay.
That's not wider than we normally approve.
That was built,
No, that's the new construction.
That's the proposed.
Proposed, and the built is the gray line. It looks like it's about 4.2. Yeah, that's what he's,
oh, I gotcha, yep.
oh. Okay, I see what you're saying. Our maximum deck width is 4 feet currently, under our new regulations.
And just to confirm, that's
It's
4
always been.
4 feet
It's 4
wide.
feet on the inside, so that the railing would be on the outside of that.
that's what we've always approved.
I mean, it's 4 feet from center of pile, right? Isn't that what we do?
I thought it was,
I thought it was 4 feet from center of pile.
that would allow only 3 feet of clearance. That's very,
I think the deck actually it's actually 4 feet of deck material, but she's gonna check the regulations right now,
Guess
so we don't have to guess.
thank you.
Sorry.
I know it's there.
Pressure.
You can never find this when you're under the, but I know it's 4 feet.
It says a maximum of 4 feet wide, but it does not specify where that 4 feet begins and
It's
ends.
the actual deck material. That's what I've always thought.
Yeah,
Side railing to inside railing is how,
the plank material.
Well, it's
Yeah.
center pile.
although center pile would be
6 feet, is
typically,
right? He measures this as
center
6
pile would
feet.
be 5 to 5.
Yeah,
Rather
yeah,
than the
yeah.
4
feet.
Here, see, it
Uh,
says 6 feet.
Joists would be nailed off of the
Thing is
piling.
4.2.
2.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I think we've approved the deck material being 4 feet in the past.
It's in the same portion where it specifies 3/4 inches between planks and a maximum of 4 feet wide. So I imagine that would be referencing the
So
planks.
that'll be referencing the decking,
Yeah,
Not the pilings.
and you're going to 6 foot, right? Is that what you're saying?
That's what we're requesting. If the commission, if that's, that's something that the commission does not want, then we will reduce. The 6 feet was the outside dimension.
So I guess, all right, so I'm having an issue with this because I'm looking at it as like the fact, an after-the-fact filing for changes to the dock system. And yet, what you're telling me is that there's 4 feet right now, and you want to go to 6 feet.
Correct,
So
because we
that's
have,
not after the fact, you're proposing a new,
that might have been my mistake.
right?
there were kind of two parts to it. There's the
I mean, the
penalty.
after-the-fact part is the float end of it. I get that.
Exactly. But then we're also looking to rebuild the whole thing. As you can see from the photographs, it's not in
You're
good shape.
essentially rebuilding the deck, or the entire dock.
Yes.
I got an issue with that then. That's not, I mean, that's not an after-the-fact filing, that's a,
Notice.
yeah, I mean, you're significantly changing the dock there. And I thank you for pointing that out, because I completely missed it. But if you're going to 6 feet, you're calling this an after-the-fact filing for changes to dock system. So that would cover the float and all the issues around the float and extending the float out, and I'm fine with that. But going to 6 feet on the width, that's not what that legal ad says, number one. And frankly, I'd have an issue with that. I think that's a significant change. And that would require a new notice. So I'm willing to go ahead and approve the after-the-fact portion of the filing if you want to do it, if you want to revise the plan to include the 4 foot as it exists. And then if you want to try and come back for the 6 foot. But I mean,
So
given that,
yeah. I write the legal ad the next day when I get the application, so that might have been my fault. But the after the fact was they also didn't put in the access stairs. So that's why I wrote after the fact. It's to install the public access stairs. But the new work would be rebuilding the pier, correct?
Yes.
And adding the stairs. But the pilings are remaining?
Yes.
Okay. Understood.
And Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry to belabor the fact, but if the commission members feel strongly about the 6 feet, then we will go to a 4 foot deck and put the pilings to allow for the 4 foot decking. And I'm not trying to,
I'm good with
Yeah.
that. I'm, like, right now, though, as this plan stands right now, I would vote no. And it's only because of the width of that it's not existing. It's something that you're proposing. And so if you want to change the plan, revise the plan to show that where you're going to the 4 foot, and arrange the piles however, that's fine. I'd approve this. But both of them can't be done at this point, in my view. So I'm good with the after the facts. Take care of the floats and float system and the walkway and everything. But you would revise the plan to show that it's the existing pier, not you're not widening the deck at all, or the dock at all.
But they do want to replace the decking.
We do want to rebuild the entire thing.
But you're replacing the decking to be 4 feet, right?
Correct.
Which is what it is.
Yeah.
It's about 3, 8, 4 feet. It's not exactly 4 feet.
All right, well,
You can see it on the screen right there.
I'm not going to argue over a couple of inches.
Exactly, that's the thing. I mean, definitely 6 feet is off the table based on the discussions here tonight. So moving forward from that, if we can have a 4-foot deck in the same location as what's there today, then we would love to go forward in that manner.
What about the public access stairs?
And where are we looking at those?
They're just above the mean high water to the left on the top of the screen.
Shows it very clearly, just.
Yeah, I mean, I would encourage that only because,
They're required.
yeah, they should be in.
100%, they should have been there to begin with. and that
Before,
was-
but. Yeah, so I don't have an issue with that. So you want to continue it and revise it, or you want to?
If the commission were to feel comfortable with this, then I would just resubmit a plan to Brittany. I mean, we've all agreed on 4 feet wide, and
Good with that.
that's it for decking.
Okay, I'm good with that.
Good.
Okay. Is there any, Brittany, you're all set with everything else?
Yes, and the debris to be removed off-site, not on
Okay.
the marsh.
Anybody in the audience have any questions on this one? Anybody on Zoom? Unless there's any further discussion, would somebody like to make a motion to approve the project with a revised plan showing the deck width of 4 feet?
So moved.
Your second?
Second, Tom.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you, members. Thank you, Brittany.
Thanks, I missed the width there completely. You should have led with that.
I know I should have, but I kept it.
Thank you, Karen.
Thanks, Kieran. Good night.
Good night, Karen.
Our representative
Thank you very much.
from 277.
You ready? Okay. All right, so we're going to go back to the continued hearings for SE 83-2384, Michael D. Ball, Marsh Matters Environmental for Gary and Elaine Roy, 277 Buck Island Road. Proposed in-ground pool within the buffer zone to an inland bank bordering vegetated wetland and freshwater pond. And Mike, just so you know, I did make the disclaimer, I've gone through and enacting the Mullins rule. I have gone back and looked at all of the testimony. If you're good with me here today, you're good, or if it's your right to go back to the original quorum that was here.
No, I'm fine, yeah.
Okay, all right, go ahead then.
Great, yeah, good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. I'm representing Gary and Elaine Roy. This is a continued hearing. We were before you on the 16th, and at that time, we didn't have a DEP file number or a letter from Natural Heritage. A portion of the project clips the priority habitat associated with Big Sandy Pond, and we just needed that confirmation, which we received today, that there will be no prohibited take or no, for either estimated or priority habitat. So we got that piece. We did get the DEP file number. There were no comments. So those were the main things. This was a, if you've been to the site, I think you have, this is an area of lawn inside a dog pen where they'd like to remove a play area, swing set, and put in a pool. The pool itself is 648 square feet, and with the 5-foot wide perimeter around the pool, total footprint is 1,288 square feet. This is in the outer portion of the buffer zone to the inland bank of the pond. No critical characteristics of the bank are being altered, and the project does meet the performance standards, both the Wetlands Act and your bylaw. The plan that's that was drawn by Rick Hood, it shows a retaining wall, and it's not clearly shown on the plan, but I just wanted to clarify that that's a wall that's necessary because the grade changes slightly as you head north from south to north, and therefore that wall would need to be about 12 to 18 inches high to accommodate that grade. The pool itself right now is fairly close to the corner of the house. I did talk to the owner about moving it landward, and he'd like to keep it where it currently is, as I mentioned, inside the existing fence line on existing lawn. We do have a dry well proposed that would receive any drainage, emergency drainage. This is a saltwater pool, not chlorinated. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Questions from the board? Nobody? No?
Nope.
Brittany, anything?
Not related to this permit, but I will let the homeowners know that they have to remove the float and the boat from the water since they're in violation. And we'll confirm the planting of those 6 trees at
Okay.
some point. But this project, all good.
Okay, anybody in the audience? Anybody on Zoom? If not, would somebody like to make a motion to approve the project with special conditions?
So moved.
Thank you, Tom. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Paul. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Great.
Carried unanimous.
Thank
Thanks.
you all very much. I appreciate you accommodating
Thank you.
my schedule.
Of course. Good luck.
Off to Mashpee. Good night.
Hey, Mike, have you started doing any of the new BVW delineations?
I have.
Are they working out well for you?
Forms are tedious.
Yeah, they're long.
Really tedious. I haven't been through the whole guidebook, but the forms definitely add some additional time. It's an improvement on the existing form, but
Yeah.
I agree.
surveyors shouldn't be doing them, so just, in any case.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks.
All right, thanks all.
Next order of business is this is a new notice of intent for Robert Perry, Cape Cod Engineering Incorporated, for David and Daphne Giannakopoulos, 24 Frothingham Way, proposed pier, ramp, and float system in a riverfront area, land under the ocean, coastal beach, salt marsh, land containing shellfish, and land subject to coastal storm flowage.
Yes.
Thank you. Sorry for that noise. Daphne and David Giannakopoulos are sitting behind me tonight. I am Bob Perry, Cape Cod Engineering, and we have a notice of intent before you, 24 Frothingham Way. I don't know if you've been to the site, but you have, good. We had some fun getting a buoy out there. I think the buoy you're looking at is number 4. Have to my knot tying abilities. I'm going to just summarize what's here, but first, if I might, we have 4 as a sitting board tonight, and the Mullen Rule is applicable here, so that if we go over and there's other members here at the next meeting, they could participate if they can watch your tape. Is that?
As long as they can watch the tape and review any other materials that would have been submitted during the hearing, they are allowed to go ahead and, or you can just, if you prefer, you can just say continue until the next time when we have a fuller board.
Yeah, I understand that.
It's your call.
Right. Well, can the membership decline to look at the hearing, or would they be more inclined? It's hard for me to say. I did have this discussion with the applicant, and it's important that we get the project introduced. And we're missing 3.
We're missing 3. If, going forward, if we go ahead and take testimony and actually try and get to a point where we vote, the vote would have to be 4 in favor. It has to be unanimous in order for it to pass. And that's why we always say, look, if you prefer, and this, if there's any kind of if you think there's going to be any kind of controversial issues here, and I can't tell you one way or the other, you have that option of continuing and allowing for a fuller board
I
before you,
understand.
so you have
No, that's why I was
a
asking.
chance
and I-
of winning.
Controversial, and while we haven't provided any testimony here, this is a project that requires waivers. So, how does the applicant feel about proceeding, knowing that it's probable that there'll be greater membership here at the next meeting, just probable, and that those members can participate? Are you comfortable going forward, knowing that, in that information?
And once we begin to go forward,
We're committed.
take it whatever conclusion.
Well, the conclusion would be,
You're committed as far as, that's assuming that you can, if we start, the only issue with that is if we continue, then you have to make sure that,
Right.
in order for it to be advantageous to you, you would have to make sure that the other three commissioners do in fact go through and review the tape and listen to everything
understood.
and are willing to go forward with it.
Yeah, we tried to have this conversation earlier, and we're getting to this point with you now, where I would have to, if I could weigh in on this,
Please.
I would recommend that you have more members. Even though these are great conservation commissioners, they've all come tonight, must be extenuating circumstances.
Yes, we normally do have 7 people here.
But I would actually recommend that we go over, as much as that may make you anxious.
Continue without prejudice.
You don't mind me doing that?
Yeah, that's fine.
So I think under the circumstances, because it deserves a full board hearing, and certainly save you a couple of minutes tonight, I would respectfully request that we continue this till the next meeting that's available to us.
Okay, I think that's a very good decision, actually, Bob. Would somebody like to make a motion to continue to April 13th?
April 20.
So
I'm
moved.
sorry, April 20th. Sorry, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we'll see you on the 20th.
Board of Health meeting that night, but, oh, no, what meeting, what date did you just say?
The 20th,
Okay, very
sorry,
good. That's
I
perfect.
misspoke. I was,
Thank you.
What do I write for reason?
the
Nolan.
applicant requested for a full board,
Request,
for a full
okay.
quorum.
Is the catwalk
Got it.
here?
May I, as a point of order, ask the agent a question?
You may certainly do that.
Out here.
Yes.
First one, right?
They're sailing schools, similar.
Thank you for your time.
Okay.
For full board.
I like showing the channel, right?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, next order of business is another notice of intent for SE 83-2386, Mark Burgess Shorefront Consulting for Joseph and Nina Ianelli, 80 Grandview Drive, proposed reconstruction of existing rock revetment, repairs to existing dock and dredging in land under the ocean, land containing shellfish, land subject to coastal storm flowage, and the buffer zones to a coastal bank and coastal beach. Mark?
Yes, thank you. For the record, Mark Burgess of Shorefront Consulting, representing the Ianellis, and their son, Mr. Souza, is here next to me.
Hello.
So there are, and I don't perceive this project to be contentious. There might be some discussion, but I don't perceive it to be contentious, so I feel comfortable moving forward. If we decide that we need to continue it for some reason, then we would. So there's a couple of elements here. I'll start from the land and work my way out. The existing revetment is permitted and licensed, and you can see that it's in fairly rough shape. There's a lot of sediment coming out from behind it. I didn't even see any filter fabric. I don't know where it is. It's what we call a grouted revetment, which I'm not a fan of. grouted revetments are flat-faced, and they just really, they don't absorb any wave energy. They just are a big ski jump out there for wave energy. So I don't really think the revetment of this type performs the way it should or could. At any rate, so the revetment needs to come apart completely. It's done in sections, but it needs to come apart completely. It's a short enough revetment that my opinion would be that this can be done completely from the land. We don't need an excavator on the beach or anything like that. So they would come in and take it apart, a section at a time, install new toe stones that are deeper, because those are the toe stones right now. So they install new toe stones that are deeper, and it wouldn't look any different than what you see here now when it's done. It's in the same footprint, same height. It goes a little deeper because it has to. And it's still going to be a flat-faced revetment, but no grout. And they fit the stones together. But you still will have the gaps that the concrete is now filling. So you still have the gaps to absorb wave energy. So it will perform better than originally designed and constructed. But again, in the same footprint, no expansion per se, except for deeper toe stones, because that's necessary to make it work. We did propose a vegetated buffer behind. There is a vegetated buffer now, if you want to call it. It's a monoculture of, I think it's juniper of some sort. As you know, I'm not a plant person, but we proposed a planting list of various plants. I would expect any comments on changing those if necessary. It's not a problem. It's certainly open for a discussion. So we have a 600 square foot vegetated buffer with not a monoculture proposed behind landward of the wall for your functional vegetated buffer. There is a proposal to expand the existing landing a little bit, 4 feet on each side, from an 8 by 12 to a 12 by 14. If you've been out there, I did put 2 stakes in the ground that shows the corners of where the new deck is proposed. That currently is in lawn. It will end up being, there'll be vegetated buffer around all of it. And then moving out, so the existing dock, this is a little bit similar to the previous proposal, perhaps. The existing dock is permitted and fully licensed, and everything is valid. Nothing's expired. Well, I mean, the order expired, but it's permitted and licensed. The dock exists in its permitted and licensed configuration. There was an extra float outside. You can see that in the aerial. And as soon as I was hired to help Mr. Souza with this project, I said that float has to go. So the proposal here is they're approved for a 10 by 20 float, which is still under your current regs. And so they're going to return the dock to the permitted and licensed configuration. So it will match exactly, no changes. The repairs to the dock are limited to really decking and a couple of cross braces that are broken. All the work is above the water, and there's no in-ground work. So the pilings look like they're in pretty good shape. They can stay. So it's decking, primarily decking and handrails that are going to be repaired with a couple of cross braces that are broken. And then moving out, so there is dredging proposed for this. It can be considered, it should be considered maintenance dredging. If you look at the license plan, you can see what the depths are on the license plan, and it's obviously less deep there now. They only have, which was the reason for moving the extra float, was to get the boat in deeper water. So the proposal before you is to dredge 99 cubic yards of material, and down to a depth of -3, which meets your bylaws, and kind of create a parking space here to get out to where it daylights out to -3. So there's adequate water from the float out to the channel. So the standard concerns for dredging, there would be a silt curtain, used. It'll be mechanically dredged with a barge and probably an excavator, and then the material probably hauled off to a boat ramp and trucked away. there's a lot of, I tried to pay extra attention to the construction protocol that's in the back of the narrative, along with an alternatives analysis for the riverfront. And, shellfish. So we went to Waterways. They were fine with the project. And there's a pretty good population of shellfish here. And this isn't in the letter that you got from Waterways. So I can tell you, to be honest, what was discussed was and this should be a condition in the order, is that what they want is to have a qualified person designated by the Yarmouth Natural Resources Department to come in and fish the area out before dredging and just cast the shellfish off to the side. So they don't leave, they just relocated, and they're not put back. I asked them if they wanted to put them back afterwards. They said, nope, they'll repopulate on their own. So that should be a condition in the order. And then we did finally get Division Marine Fisheries comments back today. I don't know if you've had a chance to read them. I can paraphrase, or I can just read what their proposed conditions would be. They're very standard, straightforward. A time of year restriction from January 15th to May 31st of any year, no in-water silt-producing activities. And that's, for this project, that's related directly to the dredging only. So they can't dredge after January 15th or before May 31st. And let's see, they mentioned the displacement of the deeper toe stones that would displace shellfish habitat. So along the same lines as what the Natural Resources Department suggested, I would also suggest that we take like a 10-foot strip in front of the wall before it's taken apart and take those shellfish out and relocate them as well. And whether you want us to put them back afterwards, it's fine. It's going to look exactly the same as it is. It's just that whatever shellfish are there, we'll get them out of the way and keep them safe, and then just like the protocol from Natural Resources. And then standard condition, any activities requiring a barge restricted to 2 hours before and after high tide to prevent barge grounding. We just say prevent barge grounding because we don't know what size barge is going to go there. If they use a littler one, they might be able to dredge longer. But the main concern is to avoid grounding at all times. And then appropriate containment measures should be employed. Yes, obvious. So a silt curtain must be employed during any of the dredging. I'm trying to be brief. I know you have a long agenda, so we can answer any questions and discussions that you feel necessary.
Any questions from the board?
Why are we only providing a beach access stair on one side? That's what it looks like. If I'm wrong, but it looks like there's only a beach access on one side.
Because there's 5.5 feet of clearance to the underlying structural member.
You got the vertical clearance.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, Mr. Chairman, it seemed to me that the existing plant material that's above it has had a long history of being established there, and there are big root systems and things. How do we feel about removing that? Because it's well entrenched.
It's collapsing, the whole root system is collapsing into that wall.
No, we were out there and took a pretty good look at it. I mean, yes, there is some silting that's allowed it to go down, but it seems to me that it would be hard to replicate that support for the bank. Planting new beach grass, whatever, wouldn't probably ever approach that. But that's just my thought.
Can I answer that, I guess? That's the whole purpose of the revetment. Right now, all the sand is coming out from behind the revetment because there's all of the holes and cracks and places for it to go. But when it's done, you'll have filter fabric, the rocks are laid up against the slope to stabilize it.
I understand how it works, Mark. It just, I didn't see that much erosion there. I mean, there was some, no question. But we've seen a lot worse, you know?
Well, the next step, when these revetments get to this shape, and it's probably looks better because it was grouted, because that helps hold the stones. But the next step is these stones are gonna start to sink and either leave the concrete open in space, or it'll all fall down with it. But the next step for this is a pile of rocks eventually.
Okay, given that, is there a recommendation for the angle of the armoring? I mean,
Yes, 1.5 to 1.
45 degrees?
No, 45 is 1 to 1, so it's laid back.
Lay back more so we don't get the bounce back?
Yep. The more vertical you make it, the worse.
Sure, no question. No, I get that.
Yeah, but 1.5 to 1 is the standard. We've done 2 to 1, if you don't have that much room, you know, you can steepen it up a little bit, but beyond that, it's not recommended. You need, the slope does 2 things. It helps absorb the wave energy more, but it also, when you lay the stones, the steeper it gets, the more that they're just sitting on top of each other and they can pop out. Whereas you lay them back, and now they gotta go that way, and they're not gonna go that way.
Gravity's your friend.
Gravity is our friend. I've done these walls 25 feet high and never had a callback, if they're done right.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Nope.
Brittany?
Similar to our previous hearing tonight, I think there should be some mitigation for the increase of deck size, since you're right on top of the coastal bank, even though the coastal bank is artificial.
Okay. So the increase is how much? I didn't do the math.
72 square feet.
Okay, and what's your calculation for buffer zone mitigation? Is it 2 to 1 or?
Depends on which area it is in. Within the 35-foot buffer, we have gone with 4 to 1 in the past. But it is up to the commission to consider the current, the site.
What does that mean, Mark?
If they go 4 to 1, you'd have to plant another 280 square feet, which would make the buffer a little thicker.
I'd rather get it to stay with the deck the way it is.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. If it's okay with the board, then the applicant would prefer to leave the deck as it is, unless he can do it with the mitigation as proposed.
I'll say you.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, that's good.
What? To leave it the way it is and everything's fine, or to take off the expansion?
Well, you just proposed to leave the deck as is, and then you wouldn't need any mitigation, correct?
Yeah, other than what's already proposed.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that's replacing the current vegetative buffer.
Agreed. Okay, we can
Great.
do that. If you want to hold a revised plan for ransom, I can get one, and we'll get it to you.
Okay.
So we're replacing the existing mitigation with 2 to 1?
No, they're just going to eliminate the increase in the deck expansion.
I get that, but.
Yep.
but right now, we have a pretty significant bit of mitigation on the top of the bank.
It's not mitigation,
That's
it's just
just-
replacing the vegetative buffer that they're proposing to remove.
Thank you.
What are you looking for, Ed?
I'm giving it up, don't worry.
Okay.
As you and the rest of the board know, I am not real thrilled with dredging in association with docks and piers. I was hoping we had changed our regulations. We have not. So I don't like it. I don't like doing any kind of dredging to achieve water depth. I don't like it, never have, but we don't have any regulation that prevents you from doing it at this point, so
If it's any consolation,
it's not.
well, I'm just saying,
It's-
where
it's
there
not.
weren't any shellfish, the soil was
But
unsuitable.
you are doing, yes, you are doing exactly what the regulations say you are allowed to do, so I
I didn't mean it that way. I meant that dredging can be a good thing because you're removing unsuitable sediments and improving the area.
anyhow, I'm not,
But I know you're not a fan, so.
we're not gonna, we won't beat a dead horse.
Yep.
So,
Fair enough.
anybody, Brittany, anything else?
Yep, I would just request that sheep laurel be replaced with a more salt-tolerant adapted species to coastal environments.
Would you have a suggestion?
I can provide you with a list of suggestions.
Because when I revise the plan, I'll revise the planting list.
Beach plum, bayberry, Virginia rose, your pick.
Beach plum, bayberry,
Bayberry.
not bearberry, bayberry.
You already have bearberry,
Oh, I already have bearberry. So bayberry, and what?
Virginia rose.
Right. Which I cannot tell the two of them apart from Rosa rugosa. I can't.
Takes time.
But I know Virginia's the native and Rosa rugosa is not. Okay, I'm happy with that, if you're happy.
Okay. Anybody in the audience have any comments, questions on this one? Anybody on Zoom? If not, would somebody like to make a motion to approve the project with special conditions and a revised plan showing change in planting, and what else were we doing?
The reduced deck.
Thank you. Would somebody like to make a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second?
Second, Tom.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, we've had a few discussions about when we're going to
Staying, right?
review our dock regulations. I'm
It
not
will
sure.
be,
Sorry, Brittany?
at the end of the hearing, I will ask for a work session
Ah,
to review updated regulations.
Thank you.
I think that sounds perfectly suited for business not otherwise anticipated.
I think you're right.
Does.
All right. Next order of business is another notice of intent for SE 83-2387, Mark Burgess Shorefront Consulting for Richard and Ellen Mello, 140 Blue Rock Road, proposed bulkhead garage and tree removal and land subject to coastal storm flowage, riverfront area, and the buffer zones to a coastal dune and coastal bank. Dang, we've moved into our second pile.
I want to recuse myself.
We can talk about that.
If you can, do you have to?
No, I don't have to. I just want to.
Like if I had to vote for dredging, you can sit there.
That's a good point.
What now?
Nothing, inside comment.
We're just passing the time between hearings here, that's all.
All right, I'm switching my brain here, so. Okay, so this one has some different elements to it, and I fully expect some discussion, and I'm probably expecting to continue to resolve mitigation plantings and any other questions you might have. So I'm comfortable proceeding. It's always better to have more people, but I don't see this as a contentious project. It's just something we have to figure out as we go here. Doesn't need a variance or anything like that. All right, so again, some elements here. Starting at the top, I guess, and working my way to the bottom. We start off with, there's a garage, my friends want me to say garage, proposed up in the existing, off to the side in some of the existing driveway area. That was staked out by the surveyor. And that, again, the narrative for this is pretty specific. It was pretty long. I tried to include everything that we needed to talk about. Yeah, the garage straddles some of a 50-foot buffer zone and some not. The area that's there is already previously disturbed, and there's hardscape seaward of that buffer line. Moving down, there's a lot of trees proposed for removal and pruning. And there's a plan, the sketch plan that was submitted with the project that includes the location of all of the trees on the site I know your first reaction is, holy crap, they want to cut down 50 trees. We were hoping to have the arborist here tonight, but he's unavailable, so that would be at least one reason to continue this, so he can walk you through why the trees were chosen and what he plans to do with them. So I can be brief on that, but a lot of the trees have vines. If I know some of you were out there, but the bank is covered with trees. Some of them are a hazard. Some of them need to be removed. Some of them are choked with vines. Some of them are small. Some of them are big. But in general, the bank has a monoculture of vegetation. The bank is stable, at least from the top of the eroded portion up. The bank is quite stable. It's, yeah, that's a good picture. It's kind of a mess. So a lot of the trees are getting choked out. A lot of them have ivy up them. There's the ivy on the ground. So the tree portion of the tree removal and pruning portion, they're marked on the plan in different colors, so you can see which trees are staying and which trees are going. And they're all flagged in the field too. Yeah, so that's one that needs to go for obvious reasons. Yeah, so the rest of the bank is stable, but it's pretty much a monoculture of ivy and whatever other small understory variations. There's no erosion on it, so restoration is not well, I'm going to say it doesn't need to be restored other than to keep it the way it is, if that makes any sense. Cutting down the trees will open up more light, so if any other plants are planted on the bank, they have a better chance of growing. And Brittany, I would fully expect her to weigh in on this, but when you have all these trees that close together and vegetated, there's so much shade that you don't get a good variety of understory growth. So one of the reasons for pruning is to thin the area out so that we have a chance to grow more things in the understory. And I realize that we didn't propose a mitigation plan per se because there's mitigation itself, that's up for discussion. What we are proposing, of course, is to restore the area to at least pre-construction conditions or better, which means a stabilized coastal bank that's not eroding and is fully planted. And Mr. Mello is fully cooperative with any kind of plantings that we feel we need to do here. We just weren't sure when you already have a bank that's fully functional and fully planted, it's like you don't mitigate, you have to just restore it. So we'll restore it to whatever we decide is appropriate. Moving down for the bank, the main focus of the project is to put a bulkhead at the bottom of the bank. The bulkhead is above mean high water. It's been staked out by Mr. Mello. If you were there and you went down to where the dock is, you could see two lines that show exactly where the bulkhead will go. I didn't stake it out, Mr. Mello did. And point of fact, Mr. Mello put in those stairs and the dock himself. When the stairs and that landing were all rebuilt, Mr. Mello did that all by himself. So that tree in question, that one would need to go. I'm surprised it's still there, but that one needs to go so that we can keep the bulkhead up as close to the existing eroded slope. We want the bulkhead as tight to that slope as possible to just keep everything as far away from the water as possible. The bulkhead is designed for 8 feet of exposure. It really, when it goes in, is only going to have like 5, but this is a very dynamic area. Now, the regulations say that you can protect a building prior to 1978 with a coastal engineered structure. One of the performance standards is that it has to be, it can't be a sediment-producing bank to a downdrift beach. Okay, so there's no beach here. And as most people should probably agree, when this bank erodes, it's filling in the channel. So it's not doing good things, it's doing bad things. The bulkhead itself is similar to the other project that we did a year or so ago downriver, but it's shallower here. So you cannot get a barge in here like you normally would at the other project. If we had to use a barge here, it would ground out for sure, and you'd either have to shellfish out the beach so that the grounding barge wouldn't hurt anything, but that's not what's proposed here. So Mr. Mello has been thinking about the protocol to do this. He's going to do the bulkhead himself also. He's thought about this for years, trust me, and is a very detailed, he can describe, but he's got a very detailed way of how he's going to set up a set of winches and pulleys and hauls to raise the sheeting and use a vibratory hammer to push it in the ground from the bank, nothing on the beach. It's very unique, but judging by the way the rest of the work went, I'm fully confident that he can do it. And so there's an access that has to come down from the top. And some of the trees that are going to be cut down will be used to shore up that access so that it's fairly flat and level so the machine doesn't tip over. He can tell you what size excavator is going to go down there. I'm not certain myself. And so that the road would be prepared, the access, and then go along the top of the bank. It's got to come up behind, landward of the deck. Yep, and then scoot straight across. So that is the area that's obviously going to be disturbed, and that's the area that's obviously going to be restored, and that's the part that we're open to discussion as to how the board would like us to do that, rather than just throw some plants in there and walk away. We'd like that discussion. So basically, you're going to go down using the access to bring the materials down, set up the winches and pulleys, drive the sheeting, install the anchors and everything, and then back out of there when all of that is done. The tree work is the first thing that gets done. The bulkhead is the second thing that gets done, and the garage is last. We don't need Division of Marine Fisheries because it's above mean high water, so this is local permitting only, and I think with that we'll, I'm sorry. We are proposing, of course, a soft return on both sides, both ends of the bulkhead to help transition wave energy from the ends of the bulkhead. And we've done that before too. So with that, happy to open the discussion.
Okay, thank you. Questions from the board?
Oh, I was fortunate to have a very detailed tour of the property this past week, and it was very informative. I was curious why you hadn't considered steel sheeting versus plastic, just trying to reduce the amount of plastic in the waterfront areas. And also, I'm not 100% convinced that approaching this from the water side isn't workable, because I feel like that to make the crane system work, maybe even more trees will have to come down. But it's I'm very intrigued with your insight on this project, Richard.
Sure. I don't think, there's no way they can get it from the water side. I have a couple of pictures I can show you that can show my concern, if you don't mind. And I think this will probably convince you. Yeah, where you start down here.
Yeah, down there.
That's the low tide. Okay?
Is that yours?
Yeah, well, that, my dock is.
Different now.
The decking is different.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
That's the same dock, same size, exact, same dock. You can see how low it is, right? Now, on the other side, you can see the buoy.
Yeah.
Right next to my boat. I am in the channel. So if I go out any farther, I'm in the channel. And I think this picture shows you how,
Don't you know anyone in Natural Resources to get that moved?
well, and you know how hard it is to pull your boat in when the buoy's right next to your dock?
No.
And people are coming up the river the other way, and I only can exit out on my port side because it's a pontoon boat. You can see how low it is.
Yeah, that's the other, by the
And if they
time you
try
put
to
a
bring
barge,
derrick in
by the
that
time-
area, the barge won't come in. They'll be out in the middle of the channel, and there's no way the harbor master's gonna go for that.
Oh, in January or February,
Yeah, but still,
My question about steel versus vinyl, have you looked at that?
My number one choice is fiberglass. Last 50 years, I want to use fiberglass. And I got the price of the fiberglass and I was thrilled. It was cheaper because first of all, with the fiberglass, I don't have to put in the,
Anchors?
yeah, the Hellenic anchors. You don't need them with fiberglass. So I wanted to do it. But at the last minute, when I was all set and I'm getting quotes, the guy adds $3,000 for trucking. All of a sudden now the angle pieces tripled in price. So all of a sudden there was a game going on. But and it says, I think on there, I have an option to, I want to put in fiberglass. I'm a fiberglass fan. But unfortunately, you know,
The
dollars get tighter and tighter.
The engineered drawing calls for vinyl sheeting, which also, they have like a 50-year warranty as well. And if you've seen some of these old walls, it's not like they're oxidizing and flaking off, but.
We had some great success with Gateway Isles using steel, though.
So I don't like steel because 30 years later, it's one piece of metal that you can't get out of the ground ever, and it will eventually rust. And even if it's coated, if they scratch that coating at all and don't recoat it, you've got, accelerated cancer right there. With the vinyl sheeting, if something happened, you can pull out one sheet and put another one in if you had to. But steel is forever and not in a necessarily a good way.
So is plastic, though.
I'm with you. We have our alternatives. And then, yes, as Mr. Mello said, by the time you get a barge in there big enough to be able to reach, it's going to block the whole river. So it's an interesting approach.
Now, one other thing, I got another, I know I have it because I just put it in here. What was it in here? Yeah, here it is. I'm gonna, when you ask me about the equipment, obviously there's a skid steer to get down there, bring material down. It's just a small, it's like a Bobcat. And I have to get a mini excavator in there. I'm up on the bank, so I don't, because the panels are 16. So being up on the bank, I'm up 5-6 feet. So it'll be easy enough, I can use a mini excavator. On the other side of the stairs that we're in, I propose that the one across, the access way went across, and I will have to remove a section of stairs unless I use a DB37 from Alltech, which is a backyard digger. It's only, it gets down to 3 foot wide. It can lift 37 feet in the air, and I'm gonna use that with a vibratory hammer to set the pieces in. Now, I say in that, yeah, I have a picture of it here. It's used to install poles. I was a line contractor. It's used to use what they call backyard poles.
Bank and the
Kind of
pier.
gives you.
Is there a
You
beach
just
thing?
drive it down with joysticks. You can bring it right down. Those tracks open up wider once I get down on the hill. But that's,
Rick?
Thanks, Richard.
and then I don't even have to take the stairs out. I can reach out over to get to the north side of the project. Because that's only about 30 feet of wall.
Thank you.
Lifts 2,000 pounds, so we're not even close.
I think Mr. Mello is more prepared to do this job than anybody else I've ever met.
That's another statement. Probably should continue, though, until the arborist can come, so we have a complete understanding.
We definitely gotta do that. I mean, I guess my other question, did I hear you right? You were saying that you didn't feel that there was a coastal beach there?
No, not a downdrift beach. It's not a usable downdrift beach that people would like hang out on.
It's not, that's
it's not a
not the
beach that-
definition, though, of a beach. A coastal beach is not whether it's usable or not. It's defined by unsolidated sediment subject to wave, tidal, and coastal storm action, which forms the gently sloping shore of a body of salt water and includes tidal flats. Coastal beaches extend from the mean low water line landward to the dune line, coastal bank line, or the seaward edge of existing man-made structures, when these structures replace one or the above lines, whichever is closest to the ocean. So I would contend that that actually does qualify as a coastal beach. And if it qualifies as a coastal beach, then that's providing sediment for said coastal beach. Then was it 1030? Was it 1032? I'm sorry. 10.30,
3.
sections 3 through 5 apply. So you should look at that, as well as the issue with the arborist as well.
So my point for saying that it wasn't a downdrift beach, when I say downdrift beach, I'm thinking about the coastline on the Nantucket Sound, where you have all of these beaches that have to be fed, and you don't want to interrupt that natural, if there was an eroding coastal bank that was feeding those beaches, that's a good thing, and that's why
But
that's why
that
that's
would
in
be
there.
a barrier beach. What you're describing is a barrier beach.
A barrier beach has a resource area, another wetlands resource area behind it, like a marsh or something like that. That's like Nauset, outer Nauset Beach is a barrier beach. But an eroding coastal bank that feeds a coastal beach, and you have downdrift beaches that these sediments are moving
We're
around.
not talking about downdrift beaches. I mean, it specifically says.
Just the site source is the issue, not the downdrift, where it's ending up. So new coastal engineering structures are not permitted on sediment source coastal banks. So
Well,
if
it says a source for
Under
downdrift.
310 CMR 10.27, section 2, definitions, coastal beach. And it goes through that whole thing where it says sloping shore body of salt water includes tidal flats. Coastal beaches extend from the mean low water line landward to the dune line, coastal bank line, or the seaward edge of an existing man-made structures when these structures replace one or the above lines, whichever is close to the ocean. So how does that not apply to this?
The way that I interpreted it was it said that it has to be a sediment source for a beach and downdrift beaches. And in this,
It's gonna
in
say
this
that when a
case,
coastal bank is determined to be significant to storm damage prevention or flood control because it supplies sediment to coastal beaches, coastal dunes, or barrier beaches, 310 CMR 10.30, sections 3 through 5 shall apply. You go and look at what the definition of coastal beach is, which I just read to you. It seems to me like that's what that, I don't see how you can't, how that's not defined that way.
well, if you preserve that regulation at this site, you're hurting the rest of the environment. It's not, I understand what that regulation was meant for, but I don't believe it applies to this site because any sediment produced in this area is a negative impact
To the navigable waterway, not
on the
necessarily the
navigable
environment.
waterway and all of the complications that go with it. I mean, this whole
Navigable
channel,
waterway is not the-
this
not
whole
the
channel
issue
needs
for
to be
the-
dredged.
But
for
the
Wetlands Protection
navigation
Act.
is not our concern. We're concerned with the Wetlands Protection Act solely.
It seems as though, I mean, the rest of the board certainly wants to see this, continue so you can talk to an arborist, but I would do some serious thinking and reread sections 10.30 and 10.27.
So if
See
that,
how how they relate, because I think you're wrong in that. I think this is it's defined as a coastal beach based on the definition in 10.27. And if that's the case, if it's a coastal beach, the way I see it, then 10.30, 3 through 5 would definitely apply. It's not to say that you can't do anything, but you have to at least need to consider those issues.
okay, we can,
Just one opinion, and we're gonna continue it, so
yeah.
but
No,
I
I-
think you need to do some serious thinking about that between now and next time, so you have,
So if,
it's not the way you interpret it, it doesn't say anything about a downdrift beach. It just makes sure it applies as it defined in 310 CMR 10.27 for coastal beach.
okay, so I'm not denying that there's not, I'm saying there is a coastal beach there, yes. But I'm saying that feeding this beach it provides a negative impact to the surrounding areas.
But that's what a coastal bank does.
So so in that case, what they want us to do is to put a soft solution in there and go with fiber rolls, right? So here's the conundrum that I always have with regulations. You put fiber rolls in there, a nice hefty, 20-inch rolls with filter cloth and anchored with helical anchors and everything. You've just done the same thing that a bulkhead does. You've cut off that sediment source. The only difference is that the regulations allow you to do it that way.
No, that's not the case, because it also, the second half of installing soft solutions is that you put sacrificial sand over top of it. So you continue to drop sand and as a sediment source. That's the other part. You can't just put a bunch of quarry logs up and leave them alone and say, oh, well, there, it didn't work. Well, no fool them, because you don't have anything on top of it. There's supposed to be sand on top of it, and that sand is supposed to be nourished and maintained.
Okay, but would you agree that fiber rolls are absolutely the most horrible thing you could do at this site? They're not going to work. At high tide, you've got current, and I've been in there at high tide when the tide's running with my boat, and at 6 miles an hour, I'm standing still. So if I'm doing 6 miles an hour at lateral speed, I'm doing 12, and the amount of wake that's up against the bank, I mean, it's a tricky situation in here, and it's not a typical site with different.
We have a project probably 200 yards to the south of there, though, that has utilized core logs and some plantings as part of them, pretty successfully.
I think I put that in the alternatives.
And
So
they
that-
did not keep up on their maintenance. And so if they were properly maintained, which they are going to do moving forward, it would have been more successful. And so I don't think that was, a fair for you to include in your application
Okay,
as
so
a
the
reason
reason
not to use them.
All right, well, and I'm involved with that project as well, so, and we're gonna have a discussion item on the next agenda for that one. But be that as it may, the difference there with that site is that they're tucked around the corner after the main chute of the flow of this channel, if you will, the Narrows. So the water comes jetting out of the Narrows, it's got two big rocks to bounce off of, and he's in a cove that's off to the side, that's not in the direct flow of the Narrows. So there's a lot less energy going on in that site, which is why if the fiber rolls are done or something a little more robust, they do have a good chance of success there. But the Narrows is just, the current is ripping through there, and the more shallow it gets, the stronger the current is going to get. So having sediment introduced into that part of the river is a bad thing. But fiber rolls are going to get.
I'm not going to argue this again. I'm just asking you to think seriously over the next 2 weeks, because, to be honest, right now, if we voted right now, I'd be voting no, and I don't know how else anybody else is going to do it, but I would be voting no for a variety of different reasons, but.
And you would want to see a soft solution in there instead.
Yeah, and I think that's the whole point behind the act. That's the whole point behind 310 CMR 10.33 through 5. That they want you to try the soft solutions first. And again, as Brittany said, you have to maintain the soft solutions. You can't just throw a couple logs out there, tack them into a bank and leave it go and say, oh, it doesn't work. Look at that.
Agreed. In this location with that much current, you're not going to be able to keep sand on top of them. It's not going to work. They're going to get ripped out, and you're going to have fiber rolls floating down the Narrows. It's going to be a mess. So why follow the regs in that instance? I mean, we can ask for a variance, right? So why follow the regs when we know it's going to be a disaster? Do it once, do it right. It's not any different than the other wall project that was permitted. There's
Mark,
another.
You haven't convinced me. You haven't convinced me at this point, but I think at this point, you should probably take the continuance and think about it, get the arborist lined up for the next meeting.
Yep.
And we'll go from there.
What would you like us to do about restoration or mitigation, per se?
Well, we really haven't even talked about the bank at all. I mean, I don't have issues with taking trees down for the purposes of safety issues, and I saw a couple that were there that clearly could be taken down.
Yep.
I find it disturbing that the entire bank, yes, it is completely vegetated and quite stable, Unfortunately, it's stabilized by English ivy,
Yep.
which is not as impressive, but I think the plan that you had where you, with that number of trees coming down, I just don't see, especially on a bank, I don't see any reason for it. Again, I don't have an issue with daylighting some of the trees, and, because that will provide for better growth, but I think it's excessive, and I think if you're gonna be doing that, you also need to provide for other forms of stabilizing that bank.
Okay.
Either with other trees or with better growing, taller growing shrubs. But that needs to be done. You can't just, if you just walk away from that and cut a bunch of trees down, walk away from that bank, it's, again, what you're gonna be doing is you're gonna have more room for the ivy to grow even further, faster, and thicker. And it's gonna continue to work its way all the way across that bank, and it will be a stabilized bank. But it ain't gonna be a real quality stabilization house.
Right, and that's what I said. I opened up by saying that what Mr. Mello wants to do is whatever that area that does get disturbed, we don't have to put a monoculture back. We would put a diversified plant. So I could come up with a planting list that doesn't include sheep laurel.
Actually, here it would be fine.
Really? Okay.
Maybe you should work with a landscape architect too. But I do have some questions about the tree sketch as well. It appears that the access goes through a bunch of trees that are shown as green on this plan, so they're not overlain. So I just would like for you to check to make sure the tree sketch, reflects the truth. If you need to take trees down for the access road, have them be red.
I think he's going to wind it down through there. So I can, if you want, these are separate.
Should be put on a plan, if you can.
Yeah, so this
you need to
I-
put
So
some-
I'll overlay the access on the tree plan.
Great.
Okay, that'll work.
Anything else from the board? Anybody in the audience? Anybody in Zoom? All right, so we're continuing to April 20th,
At least.
or you want to go a month?
May.
April 20th is fine.
We'll shoot for the 20th. I'll see what information I can find about the coastal bank and see what to do about that.
Okay, and you can get the arborist in for the 20th then as well?
Yeah, at the very least. And if we can't finish hammering out everything on the 20th, then we'll just go again, and we'll chip away at this a little at a time. Sorry, but
Okay.
it's not an easy project,
No?
Do you want a plant list for the?
You'll have to include that for the, if, whatever you're proposing, you should include it as a planting palette so that we see size and species of what you're trying to plant, so we know.
I don't want to change the stamp plan, so I'll do all that on the sketch
Do that
plans.
on a planting plan. So would somebody like to make a motion to continue to April 20th?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We'll see you on the 20th.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You all caught up there, Mr. Bishop?
Yeah, I am. It's hard to believe. I was moving ahead. You want to give me something to sign for continuance?
No signing.
Next order of business, another notice of intent for SC 83-2388, Mark Burgess Shorefront Consulting for Alan and Julie Shawcross, 60 Ice House Road, proposed seasonal dock on Long Pond and land under water bodies and waterways and the buffer zone to a bordering vegetated wetland.
Yes. Yes, me again, Mark Burgess, Shorefront Consulting. The Shawcrosses are in the audience right behind me. I'm hoping this is a nice, easy one. So seasonal dock on Long Pond, done a few of them. It completely meets your regs for depth and length. We have the public access stairs, and the dock is actually going in, it's a seasonal dock on feet, anyway, and it's going in only on the beach or in the water. It's not on there's no BVW on the site. And that was my mistake. I thought, well, there's got to be a BVW, so I put it on the plan. And we had Brad Hall go out, and there is no BVW. It goes right from the top of Inland Bank at the ordinary high water line to the buffer zone. So none of the dock extends over any vegetation. There's already a set of stairs there that flip up out for the winter, so you'll put the dock in, and then you flip the stairs down. They'll be trimmed to meet the new dock height. It's about as simple as it gets. So I will be quiet.
Okay, questions from the board?
Brittany, were the stairs permitted?
I don't have any record of permitting done for the stairs. When were they put in?
They were there when we bought the house.
When did you?
Was
8 years ago.
that solves that?
They look like they've been in there for quite some time, actually.
I was actually thinking about putting a railing to hold as you go down, just for
Oops,
safety.
these are not great pictures. Go back to that one.
We'll do whatever you'd like.
Is it above grade, an above grade steps?
Yes.
Looks
I
like
think
it,
so.
right?
Yeah. Have great photos of the stairs.
I have a
in the
picture.
plan.
So I don't think
I have a picture that looks from the water right at them.
Yeah, you do. Or from the top.
Next.
These are older.
Stairs for that?
They look new here, but it's an old picture.
No one gave it to you.
Unless, oh, we actually do, because this is
Oh, it was the staking photos, not the ones that included in the narrative.
Great Pond.
I didn't put those in here. What was the question?
Well, I mean, it's a seasonal dock, but because it's a great pond, Chapter 91 would require some sort of access, public access around.
That's what the
They
stairs
do,
are for.
they do have public access.
We know, but I was questioning, why do we need stairs?
Yeah.
What?
Why do we need these stairs, you know?
Chapter 91, yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm aware of that, but it's like, does it really make sense?
I mean, in this case, you could probably walk around that's the way with a lot of the freshwater ponds. You could probably easily walk around the front of it or the end of it, but,
In August, yeah.
Yeah.
well, depends on the pond too.
Who came up with the 5 feet? You know, is it because I'm 5'6", I can duck into it just fine, but somebody who's 6 foot
That's what
something.
it is. You
You
could
know, I
duck.
mean, most of us, that's not a problem, so where'd they come up with that? I mean, I don't know.
Most people look at it as like that's how you can comfortably crouch and walk at the same time.
Yeah, talk to me in 10 years.
So, yeah, maybe in 10 years' time, we won't have to worry about it. We'll all be shrunk down to the point we don't have to worry about the 5 foot even.
I'm at 10 years, and it would be harder to bend over.
Well, you could do that too.
Anyway,
Yeah, so I mean, I don't have any issues, and I mean, as far as the stairs go, because they are, I don't know, thank goodness for small miracles, they're above grade, so.
Yes.
yeah, I didn't see any erosion underneath them or anything. They look like they're doing pretty good.
Yeah, so I don't have an issue with them. We can certainly incorporate them into this plan. Well, if we, assuming we approve the plan, they would
Yeah,
essentially
permitted.
become approved, so. Any other questions from the board? Brittany, any questions?
No questions.
Anybody in the audience?
Is it okay if he puts a handrail on? Do you care? Or do you want to put a note in there that a handrail is allowed or something?
Yeah, I mean, as long as you're keeping, it's just a handrail, you're not putting anything down onto the bank, it's,
It'll be attached to the wood.
It would stay above grade on the side of those stairs.
Tied to the
Yeah.
stairs?
Yes.
Okay,
So it wouldn't touch any vegetation.
yeah,
More for safety for children.
of course.
yeah, I'm not gonna, there's no sense in letting kids fall headlong down the bank if they don't have to.
Those stairs are slippery, too.
What's that?
Those stairs are slippery.
Yeah, it's like, it definitely looks a,
I was there on my waders, and yeah, anyway. Why don't we, just so there's, moving forward, and all of us are retired and gone, why don't we just put a note that says a handrail, a single handrail, or a handrail is allowed? And that way, if somebody looks back and go, well, it's not on the plan.
I put it in the minutes.
Okay,
I'll put it in the order.
thank you.
and it's just, so it's again, seasonal float, so it's out in April up through October, but out November through March, okay? All right.
You have specific dates for that?
Yep, we do.
Okay. Cool.
Right, unless there's any further discussion, would somebody like to make a motion to approve the project with special conditions?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously.
Who made the motion? Missed it.
Tom and Paul seconded.
Thank you.
It was the other way around.
Sorry, the other way around.
Okay.
What's gonna make
Paul and Tom. And Tom.
the future, they'll be confused by that.
All right. Can we get through all these quickly? Do we have letters for this?
Sorry. just a
Moving
second.
on, we have continued stormwater management permit applications, SW 2023-002, Robert Reedy, J.M. Riley Associates, and Christian Davenport Companies Incorporated, Lot 2A, Route 6A, proposed development of a 14-lot cluster subdivision in Yarmouth
That
Port.
was a good one.
Regarding the Davenport stormwater application, I would like to request a continuance to April 20th conservation hearing. Still need to complete the revisions and respond to the review comments. So do I have a motion to continue to 4/20?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously. Another continued stormwater management permit application for SW 2023-003, Emily Williamson's Shive Hattery Incorporated for Jason St. Martin, Eversource Energy Incorporated, 484 Willow Street, proposed emergency use parking lot and site improvements for energy emergencies and storm response vehicles.
So waiting for the peer review comments.
We're waiting for peer review comments. Do I have a motion to continue to 4/20?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Sorry.
Say-
I said, yeah.
Yeah, if you were, yes, you're
I did.
opposed.
I'm busy here. Who made that, Paul?
I've got the motions, Rick.
Okay,
Just content.
All right. I'm gonna take this slightly out of order. Certificates of compliance for SE 83-2221, Mark Burgess Shorefront Consulting for Cheryl Locke, 36 Mayflower Terrace. It's an easy sign off. Do I have a motion to approve or issue a certificate of compliance for SE 83-2221?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So we shall issue.
Thank you very much for your time
Thanks.
and your cooperation.
Okay.
Another certificate of compliance for SE 83-2041, Bob Perry, Cape Cod Engineering for 66A River Street. We have issues with that. Brittany, do we?
Yes, just some minor issues with the COC. The applicant has placed Belgian blocks on the beach that were not in the approved plan, so we would require those to be removed prior to the issuance of a certificate of compliance. There is also a small foot rinsing station that was installed that was not on the approved plan. I don't know how the commission feels about that. And just a few of the mitigation shrubs have not made it, and we'd prefer that they be replaced prior to the issuance of the COC. Most of the ones that didn't make it were on the other side of the stairs.
That definitely needs help.
Yeah.
Fence approved.
Yes, the fence was approved because they have a pool.
Got it.
There's the foot rinsing station that wasn't on the approved plan. It's not very large, but it is within the beach.
Oh, we need to put that on a plan.
It's 2x3, I think it's on our plan.
It's on the as-built, yes, not on the approved plan.
You did an as-built for the COC?
We
Is that
did,
what you
yes.
Okay.
For the COC, it's 2x3.
Is there any additional mitigation for it?
Mm,
Well, we were over, I don't
If you,
want to go
well,
into.
if you were over, then that's fine too, but
It's a tough time of year to be having you come in and see vegetation in like March. It's the worst time. Brittany knows you know what you're looking at when you see these things, so I trust your judgment. But the foot rents, it was not proposed, and I know that, anyway, I didn't hear the first thing on your list.
The Belgian blocks should not
yes.
be on the
Right.
beach.
Those had been there for a long time. They may have predated the application.
I don't think so. I didn't see any photos of them.
If you don't see them, then they're not, of course. Good that
I
you have a
obviously
record.
wasn't here for those, but I didn't see photos in the file.
They're not in that application.
Okay, that's just good for me to hear. It's been a long time. I think it was 2015, 2016 when this might have begun.
When it's too long, Bob.
Right, thank you. I'm making notes of this.
Yeah, those are my only comments. The Belgian blocks, the foot rent station, and just a couple of dead shrubs to be replaced. And just to note that mitigation plantings are to remain undisturbed. I know you have some permission to do some management on the rugosa rose, but the mitigation plantings should not be pruned or otherwise managed. They need to remain natural.
He would have to come to you for permission.
Yes, including the taller bayberries that are planted on the side that I thought I took photo of, including those bayberries there. They're all sheared topped.
Oh, I see. I didn't know that. I mean, they're so new. I think they've been in there for a year and a half. It's hard to believe anybody would prune them yet, but could that help them bush out if that was root development? Would it actually help at this stage to prune them, just for informational?
I don't think so. I'm not sure. I don't know how old they are.
I don't think at that stage it would help, but
No.
So they're going to go into a growing stage now. Let's see. I'll be passing these along to the applicant.
Yes, and if you'd want to request a continuance for more than 2 weeks to easier assess which shrubs are dead, that would be okay too.
Now, when you say did you see shrubs that are dead? And you
Yes.
said they're on a
Well,
certain side?
predominantly, if you're facing the stairs, on the left side, but there's a few in the middle as well.
Looking up the hill toward the house, they're on the left.
For the water.
Okay,
Apologies.
correct me if I'm wrong. We're looking at the water, and you think there's dead ones to the right or to the left?
Left.
Okay, sorry. I'll go down there. We'll be bending branches,
Yeah,
looking for green.
looking for green.
They all look dead to me. No, I'm just kidding. It's winter.
I think with those pavers, or what did you call them, Belgian blocks?
Belgian block? That's what I thought they were.
Cobblestones. but-
Cobblestones? I don't
So I
know.
used to call them
Stones?
pavers or cobblestones, but
Is that a landscape architecture term?
I don't know. My dad would call them Belgian blocks.
Well,
I don't know if we necessarily need those.
Removed from the beach?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. I mean, if you're looking to establish a path, and I like the idea that you're establishing a path. You can put a couple, like, just a few posts,
Right.
that's
When
really
we did
all
the
you need.
as-built, that whole area, I don't know if you noticed, but when the applicant, before, maybe a week ago, we spoke, because we were gearing for the meeting, he said he'd, somehow done some neatening up, and when we were down there, that whole area was overwashed with rack material, and I don't recall seeing that many cobblestones, but they're there, they're in your picture, and if you don't want them there, we'll pass
I would,
that
yeah, I
along.
would prefer them not be there.
So noted. And 2 weeks is short. I don't think this is correctable, 2 weeks, so a month.
Okay, so you can tell us the first one in May or the second? So May 4th or 18th?
He's interested in getting things done, and it's early in the planning season, so those shrubs can be identified and replaced in that time frame. I think. So the first meeting.
May 4th. Okay.
May 4th? Okay, so do I have a motion to continue the COC request to May 4th to fix the deficiencies?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay. Thanks.
See you on May
Thank you.
4th.
Always a pleasure, Mr. Perry.
Haven't seen much of you.
I know.
Try to come back soon.
But I would say you made the right decision on the other one there, Bob.
Bump their head on that.
Very good.
Okay, we'll see you.
Almost done.
All right,
Two
so
more.
I am tabling enforcement items 17, Great Island Homeowners Association, 0 Great Island Road, unpermitted fill deposit on a coastal dune, coastal beach, and land subject to coastal storm flowage. They have gone to Natural Heritage, but they have not gotten anything back yet at this point. So should I
I have
go
not-
2 weeks, or should I just,
No.
we'll do
Yeah,
May
just
4th?
2 weeks, I think. Well, they submitted it in early April, or early March, so they really should have it by next time.
Yes, they really should,
They
but.
really should.
All right, well, we'll go for April 20th. I'll just table this to April 20th with great hope. Other enforcement is Jeffrey Gabriel's 18 roads and unpermitted vegetation cutting in the buffer zone to a wetland.
Oops, that's not it.
Good evening, Commissioner, gentlemen, Ms.
Brittany,
DiRenzo.
what's up?
So
Let me-
I'm
Hold on, I'm gonna let Brittany go ahead first because she's got everything
All right, we
lined
usually
up.
just do a quick, brief overview. So at our site inspection for the deck extension, the commissioners and I noticed that a 16-inch oak and a 6-inch oak were severely pruned without the benefit of best management practices. So this large oak here will have severely declined leaf out this year and probably will lead to its demise because oaks are heavily reliant on their photosynthesis. And this oak here was also topped severely. So these are both in the 35-foot no disturb zone. So I sent an enforcement order requesting their presence to discuss this, knowing that they would be here for their deck NOI, to discuss replacement options for these trees that are likely going to die in the next 5 years. And that is all.
Okay, what would you propose?
Sorry, they did request to remove these trees for solar in September. I denied the request and allowed a couple of branches over the house to be pruned, but the tree workers did not follow that.
Okay, so you approved a pruning,
I approved one limb.
and the tree company went beyond.
Yes,
Who was the tree company?
I don't remember. I was told.
Baker and Sons, a reputable firm on the Cape for the last 48 years.
Questionable.
So I met Brittany on the 19th, and apologies for being naive, being from Falmouth and going through this for the first time. But I innocently walked in, and she was polite enough to say it wasn't probably going to get approved, but would look at it for removal, because I measured it on a measure map, and it was 31 feet. So she made me aware of the 35-foot. I didn't have any idea. And when we received the feedback, it had pruning guidelines attached. So I reached out to a recommended tree service, Tim Baker and Sons, to see if they knew about the guidelines that you had attached, and I sent them the picture.
Okay.
So I believe there might be a misunderstanding that I thought we were allowed to prune the tree and not remove the tree.
Okay.
And I relayed that to somebody who knows a lot more about that. And he's kind of standing by, he's driving, and he's willing to talk to us as well. So, if you don't mind, I'm gonna get him on the line, because
Well,
I
no, we
don't-
can't do
yeah, I
that.
don't think
Because
so.
we can't record it, and so
Yeah.
it's not something we can do with that,
well,
but,
I can relay what he said. If
I mean, the
you-
question, so did he, when, the pruning that he did, was that still within guidelines, or?
No, I would say no. It's
It-
not
that looks
approved
more than
pruning
20%.
to prune any limb greater than 4 inches or greater than 30% of the tree. And this is significantly beyond that. And best management practices would never have prune entire branches. They would just prune portions of the branches so that there's not enough bud material left to allow this tree to photosynthesize to stay alive.
With all due deference, Mr. Baker might disagree with some of that, given his experience, and that's where the crux of the issue is. We're
Okay.
happy to entertain any reasonable solution.
Right.
Okay, either way, I don't think he conformed with the pruning guidelines that were issued. Even if my assessment of the tree's future isn't entirely, if he doesn't agree with that, it's not within the pruning standards that we supplied.
Okay. Well, apologies for that misunderstanding. Now, I did, and so did Tim Baker, go look at the tree, and I just went out this week. And we're happy to see that it doesn't appear to be dead. So it's growing buds, maybe not in the abundance that you guys had. As far as the 50%, it's so arbitrary to try to figure that out. The tree is still, it doesn't look great, but it's budding, and it's over the house. And Tim Baker told us that he actually we thought we could prune like up to where you guys had matched it to your picture.
Mm-hmm.
And he used the fence just because he can't get on the line.
Yeah, just the one limb was approved.
So that was where we fell off.
That's where
our-
the misunderstanding came.
Yeah, so whatever we can do to remedy this, we're all here to help out. So, and like maybe native blueberry bushes, something that is indigenous to that area. We'd be willing to do that Mr. Gabriel is the homeowner, though.
We're looking for a solution.
Yeah. We'd be happy to do whatever you.
Do you have something in mind?
I don't know what the commission would prefer in a situation like this. The tree itself wasn't removed, but a good portion of the tree and its habitat was removed. So I don't
mean,
know if,
My inclination would be to find the tree company and hope that it continues to grow. But, I mean, clearly that was beyond what was permitted, so that would be the reason for the fining, but I don't know what else we can do other than to wait and see whether or not it's gonna continue to grow or get some sort of growth that it's gonna continue somewhat normally, but
mm-hmm.
my impression is that it probably won't, but I don't know what else to do at this point.
Yeah, because mitigation would be, or restoration replacement would be if they either killed the tree or removed the tree. But they did remove a lot of the habitat that the tree provides. So I don't know if you wanted to do a decreased replacement ratio, some small sort of planting. I don't know if that's appropriate, whatever you think.
Well, the only problem is if you try and increase what size, it looks like it's a good sized tree, right?
Yeah, it's a 16-inch diameter oak.
Okay, so,
You're not going to provide any habitat that's near that. It would be small shrubs instead, or a tree that's.
Can we
Result.
defer a decision and come back with evidence in June as to the status of the tree at that point?
Well, I'm
and
not
then-
concerned of the tree's survival for this year. It has enough carbohydrate storage to survive, but its future years is where the issue is.
Again, that's speculative, wouldn't you agree?
This tree is
Based on your
considerably.
experience, but it's speculative whether it's going to live past this year or not. It's
Is,
just
but
what
the
you
tree is
feel is.
considerably damaged. The services that the tree can provide are no longer what they were. In the no
I
disturb
don't
zone.
like the idea of just taking it down, because what are we gonna replace it with? And what's the equivalent? You're already somewhat limited in the amount of space that you have available. You've already we're already starting to
Correct,
look
yes.
for other mitigation for other projects. And so,
Mr. Chairman?
yeah,
Yeah, I just have a question about this. So it seemed pretty clear that you gave permission for the removal of one limb
One limb.
that was hanging over the house. Somehow, there was a misunderstanding in terms of what removing one limb meant. And so this is what it resulted in. So, and I would agree that it's kind of difficult to determine exactly what kind of mitigation would really mitigate this problem. So You mentioned a fine. I think is very appropriate to issue a fine and, you know, having to do with the tree person. And then see what happens with the tree, you know? My guess is it'll kind of survive, but, you know, that's just my guess. But still, it's just so kind of egregious that one limb turns into what it turned into in terms of, I've never seen a tree pruned, a big oak like that pruned in such a manner. It's kind of interesting. So I would issue a fine, and go from there and see what happens.
I think I would leave it at just find the company and proceed with what happens at this point.
Would you give Mr. Baker the opportunity to defend his actions prior to a fine being assessed? He's not here to
He couldn't
speak for himself. And I can't speak for him, and I don't intend to, but he may have a different point of view.
But what could it be? I mean, there was permission for
Well,
one limb.
he might, and I'm just surmising, he might look at what Brittany said and say, look, it's clear that, you know, what I saw and what you intended are two entirely different things.
Is that what you sent?
guess.
That's the picture. I don't buy that at all. I see a big red line, and that's saying that, like, to me, if I was looking at that, I'd say, cut the branch off right there. That's what you do. Done. I mean, I don't think there's any room for misunderstanding or misinterpreting.
So,
It clearly says, there's the branch, there's the where you cut it off and be done with it.
the misunderstanding was when there was attached pruning guidelines that made
Yeah.
me think that the tree could be pruned within the guidelines, and that was the pruning guideline.
What's it saying?
May prune branch overhanging house as shown in attached photo. Review pruning guidelines. I attached the pruning guidelines because I couldn't not tell from where I was standing on the ground if where I marked that was less than or greater than 4 inches, which is required in the pruning guidelines. So I could not see that.
Yeah.
But if there's a
think that permit
conflict
is very
between
clear.
if there's a conflict between the pruning guidelines and the photograph, what do we do with that information?
There is not. There's no conflict.
I haven't read them, I don't know, but the issue is what Mr. Baker took from the guidelines and how he then acted.
So I received, on behalf of Mr. Gabriel's, confidence in vetting Mr. Tim Baker and Sons. Tyler's running the operation. He had extreme confidence in his ability to prune within the guidelines, stating that he had worked with projects in Yarmouth, in numerous projects. And I believe that because they've been around for so long.
Did you give him the paper that Brittany gave you?
Yes.
The paper that says prune one branch?
I gave him the picture, and it might have been, looking at it now, I might have texted him the picture and not the whole thing, or I gave him the whole thing. I'll look. There was a misunderstanding between me and the tree person, obviously. And it wasn't out of disrespect for what you had said.
No, and I don't, and I'm not insinuating it was. It's a misunderstanding, but either way, the tree company is in violation of the Wetlands Protection Act, and the commission has proposed to issue him a fine, not the homeowners.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know that there's any further discussion on it.
And so I did issue an enforcement order for their attendance and a potential restoration, so we'll vote to rescind the enforcement order and issue the fine.
Yeah, and then just issue the fine as it's just a non-criminal citation.
It's a non-criminal bylaw citation.
So they've met the order, the enforcement order has been complied with, and the result is to issue a non-criminal citation to the tree company.
And you said the Baker and Sons tree work, is there a person in particular we should be issuing it to, or?
Tyler, is Tyler?
Yeah,
Tyler
running the show,
Baker.
Tyler
for his
Baker.
dad. He does a great job. He's very professional. Do you need his phone number?
I'm just gonna send it to his address, to the work address.
Yeah, there's a website, a Facebook page. They're a very responsive company.
Okay.
And, you know, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for coming in and
Sorry to get you
speaking,
along
speaking to that effect. Do I have a motion to issue the enforcement order as written?
So the enforcement order as written does say potential restoration, so we'll have to revise it.
Oh, sorry, so it amended.
Amended.
Well, as amended, do I have a motion to issue the enforcement order as amended?
So moved.
A second? All those in favor? Opposed? Carries unanimously. And do I have a motion to issue a non-criminal citation to Baker Tree Company? I'll go for $100.
For what?
Or sufficient, $100 sufficient? Since they're,
Yeah,
no?
it's just a
Yes?
notification. That seems appropriate to me.
Yeah.
Since there was an honest misunderstanding, 300 might be excessive.
Okay, 100?
Sounds good.
100, yeah, that's fine.
You okay with that, Rick? Okay.
So the maximum is 300, right?
Yep.
Yes, it has to be between.
So actually, it's going to be more symbolic than anything else, but,
Yeah.
you know, it's just kind
Okay.
of surprising.
All right, okay, thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Thank you, sir.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Approval of meeting,
Sure.
approval of meeting minutes for March 16th, 2023. Did somebody get a chance to read those?
Did you read them, Tom?
Mr. Minutes, Mr. Durkin,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Minute, we have a minutes question.
I did not read them, and I apologize for that.
No, but you weren't there, were you?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, so he can't.
No.
Okay.
But
So
Rick-
we'll just table the minutes until
Like 3 left.
4:20.
It's a skeleton.
Other business not reasonably anticipated?
I would just,
Tom first.
do I have a moment?
Yeah, go ahead,
Yeah.
Tom.
I was wondering, did you all receive your wastewater information
Yep,
Yes.
flyer?
beautiful
What did you
flyer.
think?
Very nice.
Very well done.
I thought they did a good job on it.
I've been on that committee, so thank you.
Oh, yeah. But
You were?
I'm on the committee, yeah.
I was pleased to get it. I'll tell you why, too,
you
and I'll
were
make it
pleased
brief.
with it too?
Yes.
Yes, I was.
Because to me, it's so hard to get communication from various town departments.
Oh,
Yeah,
Good
because we don't have newspapers anymore.
Right.
It's so difficult. And not everybody is scanning the social media and everything all the time.
website or anything,
You
yeah.
know, so it was nice. It looked expensive, but I was glad to get it.
Yeah, well, you're talking 200 billion. That's a lot of money.
No, I mean the flyer.
The flyer, yeah, but within 200 million, it's still,
Yeah.
No increase in taxes.
isn't that interesting?
Isn't it amazing? The town has done a great job.
They have,
They really
they
have.
have.
Did you have something?
Yes, we will in the near future need to either have at the end of our meeting a work session to review the updates to the bylaw and the pending very beginning updates to the regulations. So the bylaw, I anticipate putting forth at special town meeting in the fall, so it has to be pretty much finished by July. Most of the work is completely finished, but I want to have, I have some questions for the commission to agree on, and then the regulations will be built after that.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's schedule that away then.
We'll wait till we have more of the board to schedule one.
And we have fewer items on the
Well,
agenda.
we either have a very light agenda, or we
we'll
might
do
just
an
have to do
extra.
an extra meeting.
Yes,
Okay,
that is all.
anything else?
No.
Brittany, anything else?
Don't forget cleanup day, April 22nd, Earth Day. Tell your friends.
Where do people meet for that? Here at Town Hall?
Yep, the front of Town Hall.
Okay.
There'll be a sign-in desk registration
The
table.
kids are?
Yep, kids are allowed.
Okay.
All right, if there's no other business then, would somebody like to make a motion to adjourn?
I would, thank you. So
Right.
moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We stand adjourned at 7:50.